FanDuel.com/Sal and bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
21 plus and physically present in New York. No purchase necessary. Bonus issued with non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For up with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is being restored. And there's breaking news every minute. Now, tens of millions of Americans are turning off Fox and CNN and tuning in to Newsmax for the breaking information they really need to know. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top news brands in America.
Update.
The Buffalo Sabres got their fourth win in a row for the first time since January of 2023. Now, though, they'll be off until Saturday against Nashville. And following that, the league will be on a minor break for the Four Nations face-off. That will go from February 12th to the 20th. But some notes from practice today. Matthias Samuelsson is going to be out for Saturday. He's dealing with a lower body injury. Dylan Cousins, also a lower body issue. He has not, though, been ruled out. Tage Thompson and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen are thought also to have a good chance to play Saturday against Nashville. Thompson just needs to clear concussion protocol, while Luukkonen was held out last night with a minor injury. Around the NHL tonight, though, very light night, just 3 games. At 7, the Rangers host Boston. 9:30 sees the Oilers traveling to Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. And 10:30, the Kings host Montreal. And then earlier this afternoon, UB women, they fell to Toledo 58-55, though they now sit on the season at 19-3. The Bulls are next in action this Saturday on the road versus Coastal Carolina. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody?
Monday, Tuesday, hump day is halfway. It's Mike Schopp.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
And the Bulldog.
Hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on. I know you can hear me.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
On WGR
Hump day.
Sports Radio 550.
A little bit of news here. I've got my 3 drinks. Here's 1, coffee. Don't need it. Have it. 2, water. Through the filter. We got a filter in our sink. Everything's now on camera. What did you spend your stipend on, by the way? I never asked you. Your clothes money. What did you buy? And the third one is this grocery store seltzer water, sparkling water. And you say you don't like this stuff. I don't know how anybody could not like Jerry or this particular drink. How can anybody not like it?
We have some variation of that exact brand or some variation, some other non-store brand in the house at all times, and I just have never. I've tried at various times. It's been years. My wife, when the kids were little, like I'm not buying pop. We'll have. She started buying that, and she would show the boys how to mix it with a little bit of juice if they wanted something more, right? So good for you pop, we used to call it in the house. And I don't know. I've just never really gotten to a place where I like the. I don't know. I don't like fizzy water. Basically, I think is what my problem is. I did go through a phase where I wasn't drinking alcohol at all, and my go-to, I never acquired a taste for non-alcoholic beer. I wouldn't say I tried vigorously to make that work, but I just thought, like, what am I doing? So when I wasn't drinking, my go-to, if we were out, was like a tonic water with lime. And I liked that okay. But I don't know, the seltzer just never really got there for me. So
no caffeine, no juice, no calories. How is it not empty?
Yeah.
There's just nothing. Yeah. There's zero of everything in here. But yes, I like it. Like to have a variety. I've got my variety.
I bought some shirts with our clothing stuff.
Did you?
Yeah. These are. I have a few of these. There's various wildlife depicted. In this instance, it's actually a wolf doing what a wolf would do, which is howling at the moon. I have numerous others that are like bears riding bicycles or playing guitars. I think the other day I was wearing a sloth wearing a hoodie, drinking a cup of coffee. These are things that appeal to me.
You actually did buy clothes.
I did buy some clothes. Yeah. I'm
in a holding pattern.
It wasn't exactly because of the video element of the show. It was, honestly, I bought some shirts from this company a couple of years ago, was asked about them. A friend's wife, my friend, where'd you get those shirts? I like those shirts. And I went to look for the name of the company, and I couldn't find it. I thought, like, oh, well, maybe they went out of business. And then I got an email from them a week ago saying, like, hey, where you been? I'm like,
the company.
The company.
The shirt company.
The shirt company sent me. I'm like, oh, you're still around. So I texted my friend, here, this is that company, and then I ordered some shirts.
Interesting. Well,
that's how they get you.
I'm protesting. I'm in a protest. I'm in a quiet protest. I'm still waiting for my camera money, and until I get it, why would I buy clothes?
Right.
I mean, you buy the clothes. That's an exaggerated.
Right, yeah.
Position on my actual feelings.
Lest anyone actually think that that's in any way real.
There's always some truth in everything.
I did buy shirts. I did not get a stipend.
No,
there's no.
They're spending it on the paint.
Right.
As you can see, they're spending it on the room.
Right.
I thought Josh Jacobs' quote was interesting today.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's not great for him, but he said it. He's being honest.
Yeah.
You assume that the Packers don't have a wide receiver one. I guess if you don't win, you'll want whatever you didn't have. Even like in the Bills' case last year where they went the other way, right? Having the wide receiver one was the problem, depending on who it is. and his age and his attitude, depending on who it is.
Right.
The Packers are the Bills in a much better division.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And we talked a lot about them last year as kind of maybe the ideal for what the Bills were going for. Everybody's good or pretty good. Jaden Reed, Dobbs, Watson, Wicks. And they have 2 tight ends they drafted in the same draft 2 years ago. So everybody's young, and they've got depth, talent. That's kind of how what you wanted to be. And they had a good season, and they got beat in the playoffs. And the running back is like, you know what we really should have, actually? My opinion is we should have a wide receiver 1, a clear wide receiver 1.
Right.
You know, here we are starting the offseason, and not that, like, it should be settled by the 3rd day of the week after their loss or anything like that, but very much in, all right, what do the Bills actually need to do mode? You know, we've been on Myles Garrett. We spent a minute on Cooper Kupp yesterday. I don't know if that's really a good idea, but, you know, any kind of name comes along. But really more so like with the draft and free agency and positions. And this is an offseason where there's a longer list than we've had in a long time for what they need. And I'm a little bit coming around on Garrett, I think. I don't know. I like the argument for going for it. But I just have a hesitation or reluctance. I have a reluctance about like sort of loading up on one guy on defense for this team. I'm getting closer to, okay, well, maybe I can meet the price and maybe it's what I should do. But I'm not all the way there yet.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this yesterday because you said something similar yesterday about the holes, like the holes to fill. And look, I think you can look at their season, especially the end of it on defense, and point at places you'd like to get better. That's not the same as holes to me. Like to me, they've got guys. Rapp is under contract. Bishop is a second-round player. Was a rookie this year. Like it would almost blow my mind unless they draft a replacement for Rapp. If those aren't, or find a better idea in free agency, which I suppose that they could do that too. But it would almost blow my mind if those aren't their safeties to start the year. So like I don't see a hole there. Corner, I think, is interesting. I said yesterday, one of the reasons I like the Garrett idea is it might allow me to sort of circle back. I think if I get better there, if I get someone who can, it's a little chicken and the egg kind of thing, right? But I got someone more dangerous, a game wrecker up front. Maybe Douglas isn't as exposed as he looked toward the back end of this season. Like I thought he was kind of at the scene of the crime a little too often for my liking.
You could do that either way, right? With a corner?
Yeah.
Like it's why I need one or it's why I don't.
Right. So I'm thinking about replacing him if that's available, depending on what his market is, because I want to try to get better. I'd like to be better than him, maybe more versatile, right? He seemed to struggle in man coverage and is better in zone. I want to have guys that can do both if I need to, and there's not a lot of foot speed out there. Bishop might be the fastest of those 4 guys, which is a little scary, I think. Benford is excellent, but he is not foot speed. Like, he's not, and Douglas definitely isn't. So, anyway, all that said, the linebackers to me are all set, even the primary backup in Dorian Williams with Milano and Bernard. So I'm really looking at the defensive line. What can I do there? And that's where Garrett sort of becomes, I think, a decent idea, or maybe even a better than decent idea, because it might, it can cut both ways. It might talk me into or talk them into that they're more important than me. It might talk you into, I'm good enough with these guys. I really need to do something up there. And then the rest of this is going to fall into place. And I'm right now, until further notice, I'm buying that. I think Garrett's enough of a winner and a difference maker there that everything else isn't as stressed if I've got that. So it's a lot to build on, one guy being your primary move to make everything better.
That should be right, though.
I think it works. So if I can make that trade, yes, I'm going to give up stuff to make that happen, stuff that could help me in these other areas. But I don't feel the urgency to draft a corner at 30 that's got to play. If I can keep Douglas on a reasonable number and swing the Garrett trade, I'm okay with my safeties. I mean, I love this giant kid from South Carolina.
Go on.
Sounds great, but, is he going to even be there at 30? Do the Bills like him? Is that even going to line up? And, okay, but if I do Garrett, then I don't have the 30th pick, I would think, most definitely, and that's off the table. But, yeah, Rapp's okay, and Bishop is a second year, and okay. Like, I can talk myself into not really doing much more than Garrett on defense. Mm-hmm. I'll draft some guys, and maybe one of them is a Benford in the making or something. Great. Like, I'm not saying I don't want to replenish corner even if I keep Douglas, but Garrett just alleviates a lot of that for me on defense. From there, then I'm when I look at the offense, then receiver jumps right to the front of the line to me. Now, how likely is it that you draft a receiver with one of your second-round picks, say, if you trade away your first and maybe one of the seconds to make this Garrett trade happen? Can I get a guy in the 60s that can win on the outside for me, sort of replace what Cooper represented when they made that acquisition right before the trade deadline? I don't know. Like, that gets pretty shaky. The free agent list doesn't look great. I don't know what I'm really going to do there yet. I've got time to figure it out.
Well, I think the first question there is whether the Bills want to do anything.
Right. I think they should, but overall, my point is, I don't know, how I just laid that out. How many holes are there again? I don't think there are that many. If Garrett plugs 2 or 3 of them sort of in and of itself, like by virtue of, everything I just said. I don't think there's that much. I think he could help you enough to make the defense stable with basically everyone else returning.
Well, what you're describing is, the best case scenario, that whatever that draft package is enough to get him, and you still have a second-round pick left to use on a receiver that maybe could even start. Probably not, but that's the best case scenario, I would think.
Yes.
Is, the way you lay it out. I am really wondering, I'm really curious, like, what they'll think they want or need to do at receiver. Because this is sort of, it's familiar, thinking about last year and how the season played out, where they were up and down, they changed coordinators, then they shifted to this run-oriented offense, and they won like crazy. I mean, they had they had success. They lose the playoff game to the Chiefs, but I was feeling like, this is what they're going to want to be, and that was mostly right. I mean, they did throw the ball, and they threw it short a lot, but that was mostly right. What we got this year, and I think it was to be expected, was more Cook after what happened last year. So if you use the same logic, won't they, I know they lost in the playoffs again, but won't they think this year went well, that it worked, what they did philosophically with the players they have, that it worked? And so it's always going to be a little different, but will they want to go looking for whoever the star receiver might be in a trade or something like this? I kind of doubt it, because it had a name and everything. Like, what they did last year was by design, and they went to the AFC Championship. So what does that mean ultimately, a receiver? Well, I've got 2 free agents in Hollins and Cooper that may or may not be back. I've said this already, but I would think they'd want Hollins back. I don't know if they'd want Cooper back. That's one, like, would they tell you that worked? He didn't produce. But the whole idea that his presence mattered to the rest of the offense
was still wildly productive, and he did represent, in theory, something that they obviously felt they were lacking, so they did it. And yeah, that's, like, I'm not inclined to disagree with how they finished the year being where they'd like to pick up again, but that's where Cooper comes in. Like, what do you do there? Is there someone out there that replaces him? Or do you go into the year with Coleman another year older and bring back Hollins and, I don't know, some modest free agent idea, maybe something equating to what you did with Samuel last offseason, to try that, and if it doesn't work, then pivot in October again like you did this year. Maybe that's a pretty modest, it's certainly not an outlay of assets to acquire someone to replace Cooper. But I think Cooper it's important, I think, to keep in mind that they felt a need, they acted on it. So I'm including that as part of sort of continuing with what they've got. They're going to need a guy like that to replace him if he's not here.
Do you think the Bills re-signing Amari Cooper to, a reasonable deal, whatever that is? They're not going to break the bank on this, but to a contract most people would see as reasonable, would be popular? Do the fans want Cooper back?
No.
I don't think so?
I don't think so. No.
Because they want what or who instead?
Something better,
Younger.
something flashier, something that he's not. What is he? He's, I think, a declining player who's had an excellent career, has shown that he can be productive, but that doesn't guarantee that it's going to happen ever again. There might have been a cliff, and the Bills bought it. And they didn't get exactly burned by it because, again, they had success until they lost in the AFC Championship game. So it's not like it's a fail, but I think you'd want...
I think it almost is.
Well, I think if they'd thrown the ball to him more and he caught, what did he catch here? 20-some passes?
Yeah.
Right? If he caught 50 passes, which isn't a crazy amount for how long he was here, then I think you'd have more sort of, clamoring, but bring it back. Just run it back. It's fine.
But he didn't.
Right. So
there are reasons why guys don't get thrown the ball.
That's why I don't think fans would be like, oh, good. You re-signed that guy. I don't know. I think at the right price, though, I could live with it at the right price, but I'm not sure what the right price is. Even a modest contract for a player who's had his career. Again, this is not last season only. I don't know. In free agency, is someone giving him $20 million a year?
No.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to be sure.
All right.
32 teams. I want to be sure. I was thinking less than 10.
Okay. Wow.
So I want to be sure.
Yeah. Well, there's your Curtis Samuel deal. If you could sign him 3 years for $30 million,
Cooper,
I would say that's a win.
Oh, I would hate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I want. Eventually I'm going to have to decide, but I don't know what I want.
Right.
I don't think it's him. I just don't think that was successful. And there are reasons why guys don't get the ball more. He didn't earn that. They ended up playing so short. If he had he was here long enough. If he had demonstrated the ability to be dangerous, then the Bills have no excuse for not capitalizing on that. Instead, the last play is a screen pass to him. That's the play before the final play of the season, right, on offense. It's not that you can't throw screen passes, but they did not get him off. So I would think they do something else, but I'm really curious. Like I said, I think there's room for Hollins, who did, by the way, lead them in touchdown catches, which is crazy, with 5 on a team that set a franchise record in scoring. But that did happen, and everybody seemed to love him. Samuel is kind of tied in, right?
Yeah.
So is Knox probably, and Kincaid and Shakir.
I want to check Samuel. I'm not eager to part ways with him. The contract's modest enough that, you might feel like if he's healthy at the start, maybe it's a different thing. But I think when they signed him, that was pretty easy to walk away from, without much penalty.
The cap hit is 9 next year, and dead would be 11.
Ugh. Okay.
The year after is when they can walk. And
okay.
I would predict that they do that.
I think he's here. I'd be surprised, I think, sitting here right now, if they didn't try to do something comparable to what they did with him. Add in for inflation and the cap going up, which is why I'm getting to $10 million a year. And I also would like them to try to do something different than Cooper, because I also don't think, their results were good, but did he work for them? I don't know. No, I think. So try a different guy in that price range. I think that's called for. I don't know, will it work? That's the question. We were really excited about Samuel when that happened, and, that didn't really work until, the end. It started to look at least a little like it could be something.
There just aren't that many players in free agency that are worth that.
Right.
The first guy...
And trades, real quick, trades are guys that are making 3 times that. Right, if some team is trading a promising receiver in their mid to late 20s, it's because he's carrying, some number with him, and they've got a younger guy and a better idea, or he's about to be due for that money and they don't want to pay it, and so I don't think the Bills are going to be in that marketplace at all. I'd be stunned if they were in that marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
So I think free agency is really tough, and the trade market, I think, could be pretty challenging, at least at the high end. It doesn't mean, you can't find a guy.
What's your names?
In the mid-tier, but, a guy in the mid-tier who's productive and has a modest contract is valuable. Like a team is going to be eager. Oh, sure, yeah, I'll trade you my 27-year-old 70-catch guy. I don't have a name for you. I'm just hypothetically.
I have a name for today.
Teams are squatting on those guys.
I have a name for today, but it's not what you're describing right now. We're going to talk to Andrew later. Pickens.
Jesus Christ, no.
Never ever?
Sorry, boy, that was a little glib.
Never ever?
I apologize. No. Never, ever.
Culture?
100%. And that is not just me saying the Bills aren't in that. I don't want anything to do with it.
Neither does Andrew.
I think the guys, unreliable is a word that is maybe polite.
Crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
A little bit.
There you go.
Maybe a little.
I don't want them to go anywhere near a guy like that.
Okay.
That's Diggs on acid. I do not need Diggs on acid.
Gary, any interest in Diggs on acid?
Is this me?
Yes. Sorry for the awkward start.
Yes, it was. You didn't recognize me, but my ideal idea would be DK Metcalf, but that probably won't work. I would get Kupp. Kupp is a professional receiver. I don't think it would cost you that much. He's $12.5 on the cap next year. Now, there's a $20 million roster bonus, which you might have to pay. You could extend him for a year or two. He's a professional receiver, and you want to get better at receiver, I think he would be a viable option.
For me, there are 2 hang-ups with him. One is that he plays in the slot, and I don't want to move Shakir. I doubt the Bills do. Plus, they have a tight end that isn't really a tight end. So I feel like that's jammed, and I think he might be shot.
Yeah.
Professional is an interesting word choice. He might be done. He's older than Cooper.
Yeah.
Metcalf, does that have to be impossible?
That's the end of the market that I just said I'd be stunned if the Bills got into. Trading for the $30 million receiver. I just can't. I can't. I don't.
That's what he is.
Financially, and there's. He's not quite Pickens, but there's volatility there too, I think, with him.
He's kind of fun volatile.
So, okay.
Metcalf.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed his story.
I didn't necessarily need to connect those two. I'd be way more open in a vacuum to Metcalf than I would be Pickens. It's not a hard no. I'm not going to swear about it, but the money, I just can't.
Both guys,
I can't get there.
Would need, almost definitely would be extended to huge dollars immediately.
Right.
They have 1 year left each, and they're trade. So they're a trade because they're under contract. But you would do that, you would, like Diggs, you would go here. Mm-hmm. And that is a major shift back in philosophy that I don't see the Bills doing after the year they just had.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary. 803-0550. Let's hear names. Doesn't have to be just wide receiver, although that's always our fixation, it seems. Myles Garrett as well. Fans are talking about that. We'll talk to Mike Tanier, long ago with Football Outsiders. Been on the show many times. He's down in New Orleans. His site now is called Too Deep Zone. And as I mentioned, Andrew will join us late after his show is over. Are we too hard on the Steelers? Not if you read Andrew, I don't think we are. He's pretty hard on the Steelers.
You are you're harder on the Steelers than I am.
Okay.
I don't love them, but you seem to hate them.
I don't hate them. I just don't. I wouldn't want to be them. Is really where it's founded. We'll talk about that as we go, and some Sabres too. Lines open for you at 803-0550. Let's hear names. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Never miss a second of
lots of conversation, but just looking at kind of the trajectory of the team, talking to some of the higher ups, and I have a lot of respect for them, but I just don't think we're aligned on where the team is going in the near future. I feel like the window for us as athletes is only so broad, and it only continues to close as years go by, with anything be able to happen on that field from day to day. And I want to be able to go out there and compete at the highest levels, day in and day out, and playing for champions, like I said.
Myles Garrett. Bills fans pretty excited generally about the idea of a trade for him. I bet a lot of fan bases are. 803-0550. Has anybody that you've heard called to say don't do it? I mean, these things usually lean toward, yes, let's go. Yeah. Whatever, draft picks, I don't care. Come on. Stars.
You have been, you're turning a page today, it sounds like, maybe.
I love content.
I haven't talked to Nate Geary since he was in here last Wednesday in your stead, and at least on social media, he's on the same arc as you. Like at first, almost 30, big money. Are you sure? But maybe he's sort of warming to it, much the same. These things sort of swallow you up. I think that doesn't mean you have to decide that you love it or not. I mean, I spent months railing against the idea of trading up in the 2014 draft for Sammy Watkins, as it turned out, and they did it, and I got my face beat in by people who loved it, and I'm sorry, I hate it, but it's hard to be the stick in the mud. So most people, I think, are like, sure, he makes sense.
Yeah, and you're not saying different, but the difference is Allen here, where I think having Josh Allen justifies almost any kind of move, Like, there's only it is my instinct here, but there's only so much, I feel like you can say about replenishing depth and getting younger in these things. You can get stupid with the cap and crumble, but I don't worry about that happening here. Last year was a year where they felt that they needed to take some medicine, and they did it, and they were successful at it. So I'm not worried. They're not the Saints, when it comes to the draft and the salary cap, where they're just always, trying to dig out. So I think they're responsible, and Allen affords you so much freedom to do almost anything with the roster. So do I have to keep my draft? Do I have to protect my draft capital so that I can have the next good offensive lineman as my guys get older, the next good anything as my guys get older? Not necessarily. They've made it work on defense with, different combinations of veterans and youth and talent, and you've got McDermott, you've got a good program, if you will, on defense. And with Allen, this year, I think in the end was proof that, they didn't have stars on this team, and they went almost all the way.
Right.
And so if your argument is that one star on defense is just worth so much, take my draft picks. I'll get younger later. I'll just do different things. I'll get creative. I don't hate it. I think this is a team, and so are the other good teams, so are the Bengals if they chose to spend their money, and so are, all these teams up here at the top could look at that the same way. And now Washington is one of these teams with Daniels on a rookie contract and tons of cap room.
Right.
And so they'd be scary if they wanted Garrett. And if he wanted them.
Big time. Yeah, I think so, because they have the ability, I think, to they're just starting out. So they can do all the things they want to do in really one off season if it's all available to them. If they find places to spend the money, you don't just go spend the money because you have it. But if they're sensible, they're a team, like if DK Metcalf is going to be traded, they can afford to pay him $35 million right now. Same with Myles Garrett. They're in great shape. That can go away quick, but you're spending it, I think smartly to a large extent there if you do that. For me, I really feel like Rousseau is the key piece for me in any idea of this getting off the ground. And I don't have to be right about this. They might like the idea. They might even like the idea of having Rousseau here with Garrett for a year, even if it's only a year. You want to load up and go? You've got him on the 5th-year option. That is set. It's a lot of money. You'd probably, if you're going to keep him long-term, like to reduce that in an extension, which sort of dovetails into, well, if I'm going to spend – the high end of Rousseau's contract projection is $25 million a year. Garrett is about $10 million more than that on a new deal. So you're going to pay more, but you're getting – what are you getting? I mean, Rousseau makes the occasional splash play. He's a good player. But the regularity of the difference-making plays is just not there like it is with a guy like Garrett.
No doubt.
So you're paying $10 million a year more than that, and he takes the place – ideally, of a valuable asset that you'd have to give up. The Browns have to like that idea. They have to like the player, and they have to like the idea of paying him $25 million a year.
Which they shouldn't.
Of course. So I'm not here to say there's no deal for the Bills without Rousseau included. There's a way to make anything work. But optimally, I feel like that's my dream scenario. Is they're like, well, we can say this guy is going to replace Garrett to an extent. No, it doesn't all fall on him, but still, symbolically, that's how their fans would take it. It's tough on Rousseau, but not my problem. Like, if they like the player and want to pay him, and they're stuck with Garrett right now and need to move him, I don't know. If they like him, that's a way I can win that trade.
The best argument I've read for the Browns was from Seth Walder at ESPN. He said, if you think about like how teams consider draft capital, the best the Browns could do is trading for future picks. Not even just this year, but like 26, 27, however far you can go. NBA goes until the end of time with their draft picks. Like a 2031 pick was traded today or something. I don't even know. Like teams undervalue that. Everything is sort of short-term. Some will get to, okay, we'll spend our first this year. Teams still don't like doing that, but they'll do it. But future ones, sure, okay, I might not even be here. We'll see. Right. The teams overrate how good they're going to be. You generally, like we've talked about this idea, well, the Bills will be drafting at the end of the first round, of course. Maybe, it seems that way, but you never really know that. So I like that point from him. If he were Cleveland, I guess I'd be likewise. I'm preparing to trade this player, and I'll do well. The best I think I can do is push off those draft picks. Then you wake up, the next year, and you're looking at maybe like, oh, this could be the number 1 overall pick or something, depending on what happens and who you're dealing with. 803-0550. Nick is with us next. Hi, Nick.
Hi. 2 quick things. One point, you guys were talking about Cooper and getting rid of him or whatnot. Talking about his lack of production, didn't he have like a wrist injury that he would have normally had surgery on? But he elected to keep playing.
Yes, they said he could have had surgery. Yes.
Okay. Do you think that might have been a reason they weren't going to him as much and just using his presence?
Could be. Yep. I thought he looked slow, but maybe.
Yeah. True. But to your point of him being at the end of his career.
Yeah.
The other thing, isn't this situation kind of reminiscent of Mario Williams?
Well, Mario Williams was a free agent. All you had to do was pay him all the money, which the Bills gladly did once they got him into town and he saw the deers outside Jim Kelly's patio doors, and he was sold on it. And they made him the highest paid player at the time on defense in history. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the contract, the difference here is Garrett is not available to the highest bidder. Contractually, you're going to have to compensate the Browns. You got to work out a trade. First, the Browns have to get to the point where they realize they have to do it, and maybe they never will. I don't know. I don't want to. I talk a lot like I'm just assuming he'll be moved, and that doesn't have to end up being the case. I would still bet on it right now if I could bet on it, but you have to satisfy the team that owns him. So that makes it way more challenging, I think, because you're going to have who in the league that's a contender doesn't look at their team and go, boy, Myles Garrett would really help us out a lot. I mean, you could make a case that the Bills have a bigger need than almost any of the great teams in the league right now, but that doesn't mean they'll win.
Yeah, and clearly the Bills are a contender, have been one, and should still be one. That's what's the most different from the Mario. Well, the details, the logistics too.
Yeah.
Remember Mario signed and Rodney Harrison went on NBC. Like, why would he go there?
Right.
Like, there was and it was said that Williams regretted it. Like, that he wanted to go to Indianapolis or Chicago. One of the two was like what he wanted, but it didn't happen that way. There was the girlfriend stuff. There was a lot going on with Mario Williams, but it was the credibility the Bills bought. He was really good too. That mostly worked out, right? They didn't win, but
he was a good player.
It wasn't a regrettable move. Like, he was really good. And there was credibility with Williams that the Bills don't lack at this point. Thank you, Nick. Here's Steve next. Hi, Steve.
Hey, how you doing? Calling from South Florida. I think, I was thinking about hearing your conversation regarding Myles Garrett, and I think the decision should be really based on what is your expectation for the Bills next year. Is it just a division? Is it going back to the AFC Championship, or is it going to the Super Bowl?
Well, what do you think it is? Because it's obvious it's the latter.
It's got to be Super Bowl.
Yeah,
or bust,
of course. Right. Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Then I think your answer is let's go get Garrett if Cleveland's willing.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I mean, I think that's kind of a given. Not that they have to go want him, but like what the goals are for the franchise. I think that's kind of a given. It has to be that. Thank you, Steve. We'll talk to Mike Giardi in 20 minutes. Andrew Filipponi later today as well. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. Bulldog?
I'm not ready!
About what? The teleprompter
I don't
is
have
not
a script. I don't know what to
set.
do. No,
it doesn't turn back on for 4 more minutes.
Some technical difficulties have arisen in the control room, so yeah.
Mike Tanier, not Mike Giardi.
Right.
Sorry, 6 letters.
Yeah,
my excuse.
It happens.
It does happen to me. The Super Bowl on Sunday. Sam Panayotovich, who will join us on Friday, today on the newly renamed show with Joe Ostrowski, Bet Sweats. He said, why can't the Chiefs get blown out? And that's kind of how I'm feeling, like Philadelphia double digits. Alex Gold then from Kansas City pointed out, he corrected the number. In Mahomes' career, he has lost by more than one score 5 times, including playoffs. And that's the Tampa Super Bowl only.
And this is his 8th year in the league, 7th year starting. Right? He's a year ahead of Josh.
He is.
That's amazing.
It's amazing because it also includes his first year. Like with Allen, so I went and counted Allen's number of games where the Bills lost by more than one score. And it's as long as you don't include the rookie season. You want to guess? Playoffs 2.
Oh, yeah. Is it even better than 5?
No.
But it's close.
Yes.
7.
7 is right.
Okay.
Since 2019, the first playoff team with Allen.
Right.
They have lost, and he started every game since 20. That's right. Started every game since that season. They've lost 7 games by more than 1 score. We know this because we had discussions about, it was an NFL record, consecutive games without losing by more than 1 score. So, yeah, I mean, Mahomes is 5. That includes his entire career. And Allen is 7. Could you see an Eagles blowout? Not even blowout. 14. Could you see a game like that?
Sure. I mean, I thought the Bills were going to have that game against them. So yeah, I think it would be kind of silly. I don't, I never really got around to comparing the Eagles and the Bills. I know what the rosters look like and whatnot. I mean, the Eagles have a lot of talent. So they're at least comparable to the Bills. I think certainly. I don't think that's even saying anything. They're at least that, if not flat out, just a better team than the Bills. So, yeah, I mean, I think I have to. It's harder for me to get behind now because I was wrong about the Bills being able to beat them by 10 or 12 or whatever. The number I had in my head, I never really settled on an exact number. I just thought 2 scores. They're comfortably going to beat this team. And so, yeah, I mean, that's not unrealistic to me. I don't think I could bet it right now for Sunday, just like I said, because of how off I was about the Bills being able to do that to them. But I think the Chiefs could still get got that way by a good team if the matchup, whatever about the matchup isn't, as favorable as it is against the Bills, whether that's Saquon Barkley, whether that's the quality of the receivers, whether that's the scheme, could be the interior of the Philadelphia defensive line, because, I mean, they got a couple of hellraisers in the middle there that could be a real problem. Yeah, I could see it. I wouldn't bet it right now, but it's not nutty to me.
We are ready to take our break now, apparently. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
I'm Brian Tedesco, CEO of Blaupunk Americas, the pioneers of the car stereo.
including this segment, which has already happened about 5 minutes ago. Go to the Odyssey app. Interviews, morning show, and we're streaming on YouTube now. Those stay there. You can find old shows, like in the last week or two.
I very easily this morning followed a link that was 20 minutes old or so saying, Lindy Ruff, Sabre head coach, joins us now. Click here for YouTube. And I clicked it, and I rewound about 20 minutes, and there I was right there. There was Lindy Ruff.
So easy.
It was great.
Even
an idiot like me could, yes.
We can figure it out.
Yes. Great. I mean, it helps. I work here. I know when the breaks are. It was easier for me to sort of fast forward and rewind through the screen. But, I knew he was probably on at 8 o'clock. It was about 8:30 when I saw the message. I'm like, piece of cake.
Next, Mike Tanier, talk about the big topics, the Bills season, the Super Bowl, Myles Garrett, and more. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
making Scott Norwood miss field goals.
Oh, come on.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
I am allowed to type Super Bowl, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I just did, and I got nervous. Was I allowed to? Like, I had a search engine.
Yeah.
Was I allowed to do that?
I
didn't
Yeah.
commit a crime? A felony, even? By typing the words Super Bowl?
You're all clear in my world, but
Am I making it worse?
My world is a lot of funny colors and squiggly lines, so I don't really know.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, Mike Tanier joins us from New Orleans. We've enjoyed our conversations with Mike over the years. He is the founder of Two Deep Zone, goes back to Football Outsiders with Aaron Schatz, and a great guest. So thank you, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. Be careful, though. If you type three-peat into a search engine, you have to send 12 cents to Pat Riley. That's the agreement they made.
You know, that's funny. They didn't even win it, the Lakers. It was just at the parade after they won their second.
I never knew that. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And with
I did not realize that. I think I've gone through the last 3 decades assuming they three-peated because they came up with the word three-peat. That is amazing.
No, they did. The Pistons took them in the finals, just like the Chiefs here.
And this goes back to then, because I thought it was even something that he did when he was in Miami.
No, it goes back, I think, 88, 89, 90. Is where that
filed
originated.
The trademark. Okay. Either way,
I don't know yet. I don't know about the trademark.
Okay, the trademark. Yeah, the trademark I think is in Miami, and same thing. They won 2, and he got the trademark. It became a thing, and then they didn't win a third. I think that anyway. Either way, he never won a third title in a row, but yet owns that trademark. And here are the Chiefs. Bulletin board time for the Eagles.
Right, Mike?
You know what? You should not be allowed to trademark something unless you did it. That should be the rule. He should have that trademark taken away.
That seems fair. Is it about to happen here for the Chiefs, in your opinion?
You know, when I look at it with my football brain and my statistics brain, and I pick the brains of people who have scouting brains, we keep going back to the Eagles, the Eagles, the Eagles, the Eagles. They're somewhere between the superior team and the far superior team. If you look at the entire season, they're a far superior team. If you look at the last 8 weeks or so where the Chiefs were playing better football, I guess going back to, say, around Christmas time when they were beating the Texans and the Steelers, the Eagles are still better. So the brain says the Eagles, and then the heart, the soul, the body parts that place bets, they say
right.
They say don't do it, or don't bet against the Chiefs, and to respect the respect the mojo, so to speak. And those body parts have been working since we were talking about Tom Brady and the Patriots the same way. So the Chiefs have just replaced the Patriots as the team. Don't bet against them. Don't bet against them. You're going to lose money. And that's where we stand here on Wednesday before the Super Bowl.
You know, Mike, I spent a large part of the back end of the season. It's funny, I get time off around the holidays. And leading up to the holidays, I got pretty fond of saying the Chiefs absolutely look the part of a team that's going to have a great record, but is going to lose their first playoff game. And then you mentioned it, Houston, Pittsburgh, they sort of seemed to me like they were kind of finding a groove that they had found elusive for almost the whole year. And so I got a little shook by that, but I still thought they could get got. Like, I thought the Bills could beat them by 2 scores. Right. And it didn't happen. And Mike just asked me, half an hour ago on our show, could the Eagles do that? And I'm like, I have to say yes, they could. I mean, I thought the Bills could, and the Eagles are, at least as good, if not better than the Bills going into this game. So it's a possibility, but man, yeah, there's a lot that you have to kind of climb through to get there.
Exactly, and it's like you can stack up all of the Eagles' advantages and say, okay, advantage in the running game, advantage on their edge rushers versus the offensive line, advantage here, advantage there, and say, does the stack add up to Mahomes and Reed and Kelsey and Jones? And like everybody sort of has to answer that their own way. But there's 2 things I keep going back to, and one is that this Eagles team on defense looks a little bit like the Buccaneers team that beat the daylights out of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And the other thing I keep going back to is that, there's just a feel around the Eagles and there's a feel around the Patriots that keeps taking me back to the Super Bowl between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks and the Peyton Manning Broncos. Where if you looked at that one on paper, it looked like it was a close call, but one team had the great quarterback and everything else like that, and the Seahawks just smoked them. So I think there's a scenario where, like you said, the Eagles smoke the Chiefs, but I think that's like 10% of your outcomes. I think the other 90% is it goes down to a field goal either way at the end, and the Chiefs won a lot of one-score games exactly that way at the end. Oh, and yes, and one thing the Eagles have is their kicker isn't very good. So that's where we land on it,
Buffalo, Kansas City was sure to be the regression bowl because the Chiefs only won one-score games, or won them all, and the Bills won the turnovers every week. So here we go. Somebody's streak is about to end, and it didn't. The Bills were +1 and lost by a field goal. So both streaks continued there. What did you think of that game, Mike? Like there could be a lot of the same points here that the Chiefs just one way or another they're going to win. But, I mean, Bills with the lead in the fourth quarter and had beaten Kansas City in the regular season. I doubt you were surprised by the result, but what did you think watching it?
The fourth quarter felt like an all-time classic. And, the Bills came back in the third quarter, and I expected the teams to, trade paint 3 or 4 more times in the last 4 or 5 minutes. And, like the final Bills drive, it very suddenly went south, as I recall. The Bills get a first down or two. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden it's 2nd and 10, and they throw a screen pass. And it's like, no, don't throw a screen pass, guys. Your screen game is not working. And then it's 4th and 5, and then it's fateful at that point. But leading up to that, I thought that this was it. This was the chance, sort of the Destiny Bowl type of thing for the Buffalo Bills. And we're still talking about quarterback sneak and did Allen go make it? At some point you just have to say, look, if you want to beat this team, you have to beat them. You're not going to beat them. You're probably not going to get the call in Arrowhead. I'm sorry, just like we talked about basketball, you're not going to get the call against Michael Jordan in the finals. It's just not going to happen that way. You have to beat them soundly, and that's what the Bills had to do, and that's probably what the Eagles are going to have to do on Sunday.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a team like that an inch at a time. Right,
exactly.
I mean that's it. So, well, from here, I mean, we'll get back to the Super Bowl, but we've sort of landed on Bills Chiefs. The way forward for the Bills, Mike. I've said a few times over the last week or so, week plus since that game and that result, that one of the hardest things I think to do as a fan, maybe it's even hard as a manager of a team, is to just sort of pick yourself up and say, okay, let's just keep going. We'll try again, because every year the Chiefs get more and more. It gets harder and harder to conceive of a way that you're going to beat them in a playoff game because you keep missing. It's 4 times now out of 5 years, and that can really wear you down mentally and emotionally. But I think the Bills are still right there, are they not?
They are, and there's the mental and emotional element of that, which I think is huge. And then there's the physical, how can we keep the guys together element. And I think we talked in the offseason right after the Bills somehow managed to keep, 80% of their roster intact by doing all kind of crazy contract stuff. And they're coming into another offseason. It's like, well, are you going to be able to keep Hamlin? You're probably not going to be able to keep Von Miller. Does that mean you're going to extend Rousseau? So keeping the guys together is one thing, and then keeping them all rowing in the same direction and not succumbing to despair is the other. The Eagles went through this in 2001, 2002, 2003 with Andy Reid, where they kept losing in championship games to a variety of teams, and they said, screw this, we're getting Terrell Owens, and we're getting Javon Curse on defense, and we're going to make these over-the-top moves. I feel like Miller was the over-the-top move. So, 2 years ago. So I don't even know that the cap space doesn't be there. It's not like you can go easily. We'll trade for Myles Garrett. We can fit that in. I don't know if you can. So I don't know how you make that next step. That said, you're right. This team is right there. They're not in any position where they're like, oh, we're in trouble. They should win the division, and they should get another bite at this apple.
With Mike Tanier here on WGR, joins us on the West Her Hotline, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. One, I think, fascinating aspect of this roster construction thing with the Bills that's changed a lot since a year ago is the receiver position. And it looked like we got to a point in the league where you really did have to have big-time wide receiver 1 and 2. Then, ideally, 2 if you're lucky. Then Tyreek Hill gets traded. The Chiefs win anyway. And now we had an AFC this year where Baltimore didn't really have that. Buffalo didn't really have that. Even Kansas City like obvious. So where are you at on that? Maybe in terms of the Bills, or just if you have a league theory on this, like just what has changed, if anything, at that position in terms of its importance?
You really feel like you could have used one on that 3rd and 5. Or
yep.
Yeah, right. You don't need it because you have Josh Allen and he can kind of compensate. Your offensive line really is great and they can compensate. But, man, it's nice to have. And I'll say this, if you don't have that wide receiver one, that Tyreek Hill level Justin Jefferson guy, you need the committee, and then the committee has to be as good as possible. And that's what Bills fans can look at what they have. Like, is this committee as good as possible? And you can look at it and say, no, we need improvements there. I wouldn't say you have to rush out there and get, trade up and get the best receiver or in the draft or things like that. But if you say we're going to do this with Shakir and we're going to do this with Coleman and Samuel and I guess the ghost of Amari Cooper or whatever, it's got to be a little better than that. It can't just be those guys. It's got to be a step up from those guys to take it to that Super Bowl level.
Yeah, the Cooper piece is pretty interesting, Mike, because he's a free agent. He's had a great career. It didn't really. He didn't put up numbers here. They didn't really use him. He wasn't on the field a lot. There was an injury that took him out of a couple games and then perhaps limited him when he was even back and on the field. He was still wearing a brace on it, I think, even in the playoff games. So there could have been something there, but I think it's important to remember that they pivoted to that, before the trade deadline after going into the season, trying to do it with Shakir and Coleman and Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel and okay, everybody eats. And it didn't really change the dynamic a lot as far as, somebody ruling the roost, right? Even somebody that was conceivably sprung open by Cooper's presence. Nobody smashed, but they still felt they needed that extra guy that at least could command some attention and maybe some respect from defenses. And I don't know, at his age, I don't think it's a great idea to re-sign him, but the free agent class is it just looks horrible. So, I don't know what they're going to do to find someone for that role unless they want to just forego it and then pivot again in October if they feel like they need to.
You don't want to keep pivoting in October because you're getting the guy another team didn't want. You're getting a guy who did not break camp with you. You're getting a guy who isn't going to get the rhythm and timing down in May and June with your quarterback, so you don't want to do that. You're right, the free agent class is not strong. You're not going to be in a good draft position. You can assume Shakir will get a little better. You can hope Coleman can get a little better. I don't think you should be going and pursuing Cooper Kupp. I think that's a great way to possibly waste money on a draft pick.
Yep.
It's a tricky situation, and so that's where the team administration comes back to it and says, well, obviously we can grab some guys in the 3rd round. Hope we find Puka in the 4th round, whatever it takes there. Maybe the solution is to get better elsewhere. Maybe if we, get strong on the offensive line, we can be a better rushing team. Maybe if we just get, stronger in the secondary, we're going to only have to score 22 points to win. Things like that. I don't know, though. I got Josh Allen. I want to maximize Josh Allen, and that means getting whatever you can at wide receiver.
Me too. With Mike Tanier. So Myles Garrett, his name has come up here, and I'm not sure the Bills are the favorite or anything because there'll be lots of interested teams. What do you have a guess as to what happens or even who? Does he necessarily get moved? The Browns have said that they're not interested. We've had this many times. And what do you think is it a good idea? Is it just too easy to say it's a good idea to get a player like him?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw one guy writing. He's a Commanders reporter, and the ups and downs of the Commanders trading for Myles Garrett. And I'm like, you found downs? You found downs to the Commanders getting Myles Garrett? Yeah, if you have to trade 7 number 1 picks or whatever, that's a down, I suppose. Another thing, one of my friends, Matt Lombardo, wrote, and he was talking to me about it, and it was called "No One in the League Will Return My Calls About Myles Garrett." And he's a guy who does insider stuff, and he'll talk to, assistant GMs and things like that, and people are ghosting him or saying, we're not following that story. And you know what that's
right.
You know what that means?
Everybody wants them,
right?
Everybody wants them. Right. Everybody wants them. No one wants to say anything. I mean, from a Bills standpoint, there's going to be a bidding war you can't win. You don't have a high enough draft pick. You don't have enough cap space. You're not going to win the bidding war. For some of these other teams, if you're the Commanders, you're the Vikings, you're a team that's a player or so away from a Super Bowl. Garrett is that player. He really is that guy. So I think it's going to be an interesting hot stove topic to watch.
No doubt. I find when trying to find a construct that makes sense for the Bills in this idea of acquiring Garrett, I feel like Rousseau is a key piece in that. Like, if the Browns really like him, he's due a contract. Like, here's where the money, I think, can make some sense. I mean, it's still going to be more, but Rousseau's due somewhere between 22 and 25 a year on a market valuation. Garrett's $10 million more than that on a new contract. And, you know, that first year, you can usually keep the number low. So you can find a way, I think, to finagle the money. The hitch to me is, can the Bills use Rousseau as one of those assets? Do the Browns like that idea? Do the Browns, I mean, they're already being, you know, they got a gun to their head as it is. And here come the Bills. Oh, well, you got to take Greg Rousseau and then pay him $25 million. Right. That might be a lot to like for the Browns. But if they do, then I think the Bills could be in a decent position.
I think the Browns are not going to say, oh, we're going to trade the 30-something million for the 20-something million contract. They want the picks. They want the picks. Right. They want to save the money. So, yeah, you could try to put something together about that. I mean, the one thing is, because you got to go to Garrett and you got to say, well, here's the money. Here's how the money's going to look. The Bills can go to this guy who is frustrated right now and say, here's the potential for the ring and here's the culture. You can get Garrett. You can sell him on that. You can sell him on saying, yeah, I'll let you play cap games with the money and things like that. His end of things you can definitely sell, and that is part of the picture. It's selling the Browns on this idea when teams are going to come and have an earlier first-round pick, an earlier second-round pick, have a pick 2 years from now that's probably not going to be of a 12 or 13-win team, et cetera. Those are the things the Bills can't really put on the table.
Mike, we had an interesting season talking about the MVP race, and we both in here started the season thinking, as huge Lamar Jackson fans, I think I can say that for Bulldog too, no way he wins a third. Like, with the legacy aspect of the MVP, without the playoff success, Mahomes doesn't have 3, Allen doesn't have any. Like, come on. But then he had that season and, you know, was first team All-Pro. Would you assume that he wins MVP tomorrow night because of that? It's been since the 80s, since the first team All-Pro quarterback didn't win the award.
Right, that's true. And I think, while I think it's going to be a closer vote, I think he's going to win it again. And you talk about what he was doing. You got to remind people, I always remind the listeners out there, they voted before the playoffs. Right. So they don't go in there and say, well, what about this playoff performance? Those things don't count. The end of the regular season, Jackson was playing outstanding football. He was blowing people away. If you look at the statistics like DVOA and things like that, he blows everybody, including Josh Allen, away in those numbers. I think he's going to win it in a close vote. And, you know, it absolutely was a phenomenal season, you know, when you look at it and you don't think, as you always have to not think, with Lamar Jackson, how it ends in the playoffs.
Last year, Aaron was the only Allen voter, 49-1. And
oh, yeah, we remind him of that all the time.
Yeah, so do I, because Aaron was on our show every week for a few years when the Bills were mediocre, and he could tend to sound like he just didn't like them. He was in New England, and, you know, I would always defend him on this, but, you know, it was sort of ironic, I think, to some of our listeners that Aaron, look, I told you he was objective. Like, right. And the stats favored Allen, but they wouldn't hear. I mean, as good as he was, they wouldn't hear. Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't hear. And, you know, by the way, Aaron will never tell me how he votes because he knows that I tweet when drunk. So he makes sure I don't get any information from him. But, you know, his statistics tell a story, and I can base off of his statistics which way he's probably going to go.
We appreciate the transparency there on that.
All right, Mike, before we let you go, just to sort of get back to Sunday, what are we talking about historically if Kansas City wins? Obviously, they'd be the first team to win 3 straight, but does that necessarily put them at the top of the heap?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't build heaps like that. I don't say, well, a 3-peat counts more than being the Lombardi Packers or the 20 years that we lived under the reign of Belichick and Brady. It is unique. It is special. And I think once a team accomplishes something that historically unique and special, that puts them automatically in the pantheon. You know, this is a thing that, no, those Cowboys teams didn't do. This is a thing that, you know, the undefeated Dolphins didn't do. These are those special accomplishments, and that puts them there in history forever. So I'm not going to – it's something we do during the week. Oh, we're going to announce this is the greatest team ever to play professional sports. I'm not going to do that. But what a special accomplishment. After all, You guys just told me Pat Riley didn't even do it. So it's like we've got a phrase for something that we've never seen, and we have a chance to see it.
Very good.
Wow. Now I now have something to add to your resume next time we have you on. Noted heat builder, Mike Tanier. That'll work for me.
Drunk tweeter, yes.
Thank you.
Drunk tweeter, sure.
Thank you, Mike. Will you be at the game?
I will not be at the game. I will be heading home to Greater Philadelphia to watch it with my friends and neighbors, and who knows what could happen if the Chiefs don't three-peat.
Yeah, that's more fun. Bulldog and I went to a few, and we would always come back on Saturday. It would be cool to go to one, I guess, but I didn't need it. Just it was fun to be there, including in New Orleans in 2002. In my case, I mean, what a great venue for the week. I'm sure everybody's enjoying that, and we would have been. We were really looking forward to making that trip. Didn't happen. So maybe next year. Thank you, Mike.
You got it. Take care and enjoy your week, guys.
All right, you too. Mike Tanier, whose new site is Too Deep Zone, formerly with Football Outsiders. I'm enjoying the UniWatch rankings of all the Super Bowls by worst to best looking.
Ooh. All right. How far in are you?
We're down. Well, they're doing it in 5 installments.
Okay.
I'm caught up through today's part 3.
Gotcha.
Worst to best. And with 23 left, only one Bills Super Bowl has been listed so far of the 4.
The Bills wore the same stuff in the last 3 of the 4, right?
Yes.
Blue top, white pants.
Yes.
All white against the Giants?
Yes.
I'm going to say that Giant one is the one that's listed.
It is. And I don't know if I agree.
I love the all white look. I don't think I loved it as much then, but it's come to be my favorite uniform of theirs when they were all white.
I thought the two teams together were perfect.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's outdoors, this guy who's doing the rankings, rightly, I suppose, knocks the games where it's indoors or just like the couple of AstroTurf games in the earlier years that just sort of were kind of ugly or drab.
Yeah.
Bills Giants was pretty.
Yeah.
But came in
maybe
in the third tier here.
Are there paragraphs? Is the similarity in the colors a problem? Even though the Bills were in all white, like the primary colors of the two teams. Sometimes I'm watching a game and I think there's a Bills jersey and it's a Giants jersey. Not on the field, but like in the stands. Like I see fans, they can be a little confused. I think
he doesn't really give a criticism of that one.
Okay,
it's number 28 on the list. What was the best-looking Super Bowl? No Dallas games have been mentioned yet, so this guy must really love the Dallas kit.
Yeah.
803-0550, the Super Bowl on Sunday, the Bills and the offseason. We've been talking about Myles Garrett of the Browns a lot this week. Of course, the receiver position. What will they want to do and then be able to do? Lines are open for you. We'll talk to Andrew Filipponi at 6 out of Pittsburgh. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Never.
Free agency March 12th, and then the draft at the end of April. Those are the two kind of pressure points where deals can get done because you're trading for picks that you know what they are. If you do it after the draft, you're trading for future picks. You don't know how good they're going to be. You're giving somebody Myles Garrett, might not be as good a pick. So if we get through the draft and nothing's happened, then we're into training camp holdout territory, and how far does he want to push it? I think it's got a chance to get out.
Dan Graziano. Ugly. Is ugly good?
It should be good for the rest of the league.
Good for content.
True that.
All Myles Garrett all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to do it every day. But maybe there'll be some new angle every day. Or almost every day.
Yeah.
Some new speculation.
Is he on
report.
Is he on Instagram?
I don't know.
You can be dropping hints. Will there be like tattoos on his massive biceps? Maybe there's something we can get clues from.
I'm sure people will be on it.
I don't mean to be begging for that because that got pretty annoying with like DeAndre Hopkins. Right? Well,
you didn't like it? Following the exploits of players on socials? I
don't want to say No, actually I do. I didn't like it. I did it because, this is where I punch the time clock. So, but I felt kind of like an idiot trying to like decipher music video Instagram posts from famous wide receivers. Like, oh, it's Buffalo Soldier. He loves us. Like, what am I, 9?
Or what are you, crazy?
Sure, crazy and 9. That's a tough combination.
See, however, false equivalency here because maybe Hopkins did mean things like that. He just didn't get traded here.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have control over it.
Right.
He might have wanted. He had the one where he was talking about quarterbacks where he wanted to play and other places where he didn't.
Yeah.
But he just didn't end up here. So, well, maybe next year.
You're talking me back into this
quest.
quest.
Here's your free agent idea of the day right there. DeAndre Hopkins. The second leading receiver by yards all time among active players. And it's almost a trick. Because some of the guys considered active at Pro Football Reference were not in the league this year, like number 1, Julio Jones.
Oh, geez, okay.
So he is technically still active, I guess, and Hopkins is second. Receiving yards all time. A couple of Bills, 10-11 on that list, Diggs and Cooper.
All right. Free agent idea of the day, Julio Jones. I'll hang up and listen.
Julio Jones, Hopkins, Diggs. You know, the Robert Woods is on the top 25, I believe.
I might prefer we focus our attention on some less dead receivers.
Yeah, I would think that's better.
Yeah.
I would think that's better. Yeah. Guys that are not in their 30s.
Yeah.
Here's Brad with us. Hi, Brad.
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I got I'm trying to rationalize my stupid thoughts here. But just seeing what you feel, maybe any merit. I know we're talking about couple first and Bulldog, you say a lot about Rousseau.
Mm-hmm.
And I look in the playoffs and so much disappointed in the defensive line, the way we rotate them all. The merit of kind of looking at trading Ed Oliver and going that route instead of Rousseau and have a Garrett and Rousseau together for a year. And also just love to see Beam do something huge with the farewell tour of the stadium and opening up the new one with a Super Bowl championship. Just going something all in on doing something big. But thanks again.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to listening to your answer.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, Brad. And I rationalize my – I don't know how you described your thoughts, but I do that here every day in front of all of you. So don't worry about calling us to spend a minute doing it yourself, at least from my standpoint. The stadium point is interesting. I think from a emotional standpoint from out here, that sounds great. I don't think I want Brandon Beane running his football team with the timing of saying goodbye to this stadium and hello to the new one to really mix into what he's doing. He should be trying to build the best opportunity to win a Super Bowl regardless of where they are on the timeline with the stadiums.
I think that would be interesting if they weren't as good.
Yeah, right.
Making a move like that as a team that just won 8 games.
Yeah.
Because
of that. Sure.
Of that.
Yeah.
But it lines up. this way.
Yeah.
They're already going to try to win one.
Yeah. I got to say, I have been focused on the position and the contract being up. Because I think the Bills are about to lay out if Myles Garrett doesn't demand a trade and is under contract, and Max Crosby isn't going anywhere. In other words, they're not a market for a high-end defensive chaos maker that I can get in on the bidding on. Then I'm re-signing Rousseau, and I'm spending my $22 to $25 million a year, and I'm going to keep going. Oliver is already under contract. That would be the preference of the acquiring team. I'm definitely open to it. I like Oliver, but just like everybody they've got, it's kind of hits and misses. He's not week in, week out a guy that you can count on to wreak havoc. He has his moments for sure, I think, but. Like if I'm on the phone with them, right? I'm Brandon Beane in this scenario, God help us all. And my idea is Rousseau. And the Browns come back with, actually, we'd rather do something with Ed Oliver. I don't think I'm hanging up. I think I'm just okay. I can find another defensive tackle. Let me see what I can do here. You're right.
It's just all very weird for the Browns.
I agree. Mike Tanier said it. I mean, I know it's obvious. I just don't want it to get in my way. Of course, they'd rather have the assets. They'd rather have the assets.
Picks.
Yeah, the picks for sure. It's just an idea to try to make it work from my end is all I'm doing. Because I have a hard time without divesting of Rousseau and turning him into something to help me. I'm re-signing him, and from my standpoint, I'd rather spend the extra $10 million and all the other stuff to get a guy that's a real hellraiser down in, down out, whereas Rousseau is more kind of, look at that.
You could make a separate move, of course.
Sure, but that's right. Yeah, you could.
I love that the stadium point came up here from Brad. I was walking around here earlier thinking about next year's schedule, and I sort of smacked myself for all right, not yet, Mike. Come on. You love the schedule. I'm talking to myself. You love the schedule, but we're not to the Super Bowl yet. Let's have the game. Some of these bigger issues. Then we can figure out who's playing when and all of that. But the stadium closing makes it interesting how they end it. And what would be the perfect way to end it? And I have a couple of thoughts on that. One is, you're hoping to be in the playoffs again, if not expecting it. And they've had home playoff games here every year going on, 5 straight. So you can't control that. That's your best case scenario is you're hosting the AFC Championship and winning on the final day of the stadium.
That's a perfect exit strategy. Yeah.
What can you control? The regular season. I have a perfect team for me. And then also this point, I would say Miami is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You could go Jets or Patriots. I think it would probably be the preference if there can be one. But doesn't have to be. Could be Kansas City, right? They'll be on the home schedule next year, or someone else. So if it's interesting to try to make that really sing, I would think one of the division teams, and I would go Dolphins, Jets, Patriots would be my rank. And I wouldn't want it on Week 18. I think the Week 18 game is always a division game, so you're playing 2 in a row, maybe or whatever. It doesn't have to be Week 17 either. That did just happen. The Jets and the Patriots were the final 2 games, both home games in the regular season. I don't know, something about Week 18 could make it anticlimactic.
The Patriot game was in New England this year.
Right,
Week 18,
16-17 were the 2 home games. That's right. That's right. So the Jets were the final regular season home game.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something about I don't know if this makes sense even, but Week 18 for the stadium finale. I wouldn't want it to be a game where we're talking about Allen sitting.
Yeah, definitely agree. Be a nice problem to have if you're clinched by Week 17 and you can sit down then too. But
if you have a playoff game at home, then maybe that doesn't matter.
Right, then it doesn't. But I wouldn't want to put it off until Week 18 either. I think that makes sense, and I do like it. It almost has to be a division game the way they do the schedule now, and Miami is the no-brainer answer for me. We could quibble about the Patriots or the Jets simply because why? I don't know. Like the Patriots, I think are kind of on their feet here with May and Vrabel and McDaniels. I don't know what the hell the Jets are going to be. I mean, they could be. I don't know. They could go get Kirk Cousins and try again. They could keep Aaron Rodgers. I don't expect that at all, but they could. Or they could be, I don't know, your name here. Like just totally different. I mean, Cousins would definitely be that, obviously, anyways. But I like Miami. Like that's to me the oldest school rival you've got. They have been a prominent team this year, sort of derailed with injuries, specifically to the quarterback. That's a game that could have a stake. Maybe even the division is on the line, and that works for me. Like again, ideally you're playing 2 more games after that in the divisional round, the championship game, but you could have no power over that even as the season is going on. Yeah, I like Miami for that.
I do too. The Jets and the Patriots do go back all the way with the Bills, unlike the Dolphins, who were an expansion team. But, I mean, the first Bills game ever was against the Jets at New York Titans in 1960. Not the first home game. First home game was against Denver. Things that maybe would matter and maybe not at all. But we're almost there.
Denver's not on the schedule, so that can't
Denver
happen.
is not on the schedule yet. There's the new Commissioner's Choice feature this year, the flex play, where, well, they should ask me, but they haven't. Somebody else in power will just choose a fun matchup between any two given teams. I did like that idea. I did push that idea for a while. Went nowhere for a number of years. One game, Commissioner's Choice. If I ever run a league, these two teams have a rivalry. This player was traded by this team to this other team. They're not on the schedule. We'd all like to see this particular matchup. So one wild card on the schedule every year. That should have been the 17th game.
Instead, they did this rotation.
They do the rotation. It's Philadelphia here next year, which is also really cool. The following year is the AFC East at the NFC West, like when the Bills went to L.A. for that season opener. That was the additional game. They did not play that division that year. They played that division this year. So 26, and they just announced like an hour ago that Australia is getting a game in 26 and that the Rams will be in it as the home team. So if the Bills and the Rams finish in the same slot in their respective divisions this year, then the Bills will play in L.A. the following year, which could be Australia.
Great.
That's bad.
Let's just keep pushing the time difference further and further and further. Can we find a way to get into the solar system at some point here?
Yes.
Let's go.
I'd love to see it.
Mars.
Will they play the game at a ridiculous local time so it's on like prime time here?
Yes.
So prime time here in Australia, it's like 16 hours. So it'd be 4 a.m. or something. In Australia. That's when they would kick it off? Like the Rumble in the Jungle?
That doesn't seem like a good plan.
No? The Rumble, maybe they won't even televise the game. It'll just be shown later. The Rumble in the Jungle was this. Ali Foreman was like 3:30 in the morning in Kinshasa so that we could watch it, with our Cheetos and in prime time at night. It was all about us.
Yeah.
803-0550, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, Andrew Filipponi in about an hour and 10 minutes. This is WGR.
This hour of Schopp and the Bulldog is being brought to you by
Welcome back. We'll look for your calls again as we go, 803-0550. It is my favorite week of the year for like football history because of the Super Bowl history and all that trivia you get. And then we're talking about uniforms and just now we're into the stadium next year and who plays when in Australia and all just lots of balls in the air. I'm right now in a 1970 season rabbit hole.
Well, I want to hear more about this in a second.
I know you do.
How times change. Like, you can find any of these games, any of these Super Bowl highlight shows, anything you want, whenever you want, right? It's very different from what it was like in here 15 years ago. Because this week we would have ESPN2 on round the clock, or whoever was carrying. I think eventually maybe NFL Network whatever. There was a channel where those were just running, right? And that would always be on in here.
Well, Bulldog, I mean, don't get me started. For years growing up, I made an effort every year to record them all. What they would do, ESPN, they would back it up, however many Super Bowls had been played, say 20 at this point. So 10 hours, half an hour shows, back it up, starting or ending at like a pregame show or something, say, 1 in the afternoon. So 1 in the morning, here comes the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Or 3, whatever. Here comes the marathon. And I would get up because your VHS only had 6 hours. So I would get up to be able to make sure to change tapes very quickly.
Right.
At the end of the 12th show, whatever.
Right.
6 hours. And then something always went wrong. Often it was like a tennis match.
Right.
Would just end late.
Or a
and
college basketball game.
College basketball. They would start the marathon late, and it was too late for me to be up. So I couldn't control it, and I would check in the morning, and nope, it's all messed up.
Yeah, why is Ralph Sampson on this videotape? What is happening
Ralph
here?
Sampson. So, yes, I mean, that was a very important thing to me this week, and they weren't on all the time. They were only on the night before.
Oh, that's how it was. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, back in the 80s, they'd run them in consecutive order starting the night before. However early they needed to start to fit them all in. And I would just, again. There's breaking news. We have to stop the Super Bowl marathon to tell you that this thing happened. Who cares? Come on, get back to the show.
I don't need to hear about Wayne Gretzky being traded.
I don't need anything.
I'm waiting for Super Bowl 12, right?
No news was important enough to justify that. I'll get to 1970 at some point. I know you can't wait. Myles Garrett, the game Sunday, the Bills in the offseason, we're all about it. 803-0550. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here to your calls after the update on WGR.
A Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
News from the NFL as the Super Bowl will be played this Sunday. In the league, they will continue to branch out to different continents for regular season games, as the league announced today. A game will be held in Australia starting in 2026. It is a multi-year agreement, and it will be held in the city of Melbourne. We also know that the Rams will be the home team for this first game, and an to be determined AFC East team will be on the Rams' home schedule. So the Bills could play in this. For the Sabres, they are now on a 4-game win streak, the first time since January of 2023, though they will be off now until Saturday when they take on Nashville. Following that, the league will then be on a minor break for the Four Nations face-off from February 12th to the 20th. But some notes from Sabres practice today. Matthias Samuelsson, we do know, will be out Saturday. He's dealing with a lower body injury. He is on IR. Dylan Cousins also dealing with a lower body issue, though he has not been ruled out. And then Tage Thompson and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen are both considered to have a good chance to play on Saturday. Thompson just needs to clear concussion protocol. He skated earlier this morning, while Luukkonen was held out yesterday due to a minor injury. And then light night for the NHL, just 3 games at 7. The Rangers host Boston. 9:30 sees the Oilers traveling to Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. And at 10:30, the Kings host Montreal. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Mike Schopp.
You might be mocking me or you might be staunchly agreeing with me. I can't tell.
I'm mocking you.
And the Bulldog.
What is Fozzie Bear's role in this production?
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
3 running backs. This is from Underdog, and I'm confirming it independently on StatHead. Want to make sure I source this appropriately. 3 running backs have rushed for 100 yards or more in a Super Bowl since 2008. That's it. 22 have done it in history, including a couple more than once. Thurman Thomas once, the only Bill on the list from Super Bowl 25. He did not have great games in the other games.
No.
Super Bowl 25, he was amazing.
Yep.
Only 3 running backs have done it since 2008 in a Super Bowl. Can you name one? 2, I'll give you a hint if you want it. Because it's not, it's not an easy question.
What's the year again?
In the last, whatever it is, 15 Super Bowls or more.
Okay.
Only 3 running backs have gone for 100. Like isn't Barkley's prop over 100? I think it is. I can check that. He obviously could do it.
First guy that came to mind was Jamal Lewis, but that's pre-2008. Right?
That is right. He did go over 100 in the Baltimore Giants game.
Right. So that does me no good. Does not fit the criteria. Good. I'm just telling you why I asked for you to be just restate what the time frame is I'm working with.
Barkley's prop is 112.5.
Wow.
Which would be the most rushing yards if he hits 112, which would still be under in any Super Bowl since Dominic Rhodes.
Zoinks.
Colts Bears.
Yeah. Wow.
Thomas Jones went for 112 for the Bears. Rhodes went for 113 for the Colts. 3 guys have done it since. 2 are former Bills.
All right. Well, Marshawn Lynch is one.
Yes. In the Patriots game. He had a big run right at the end to get them, if I remember right, near the end zone.
Before the ill-fated.
Yes. He did not have a great game, but he had a big run late. He went for 102.
That counts.
That counts.
Another former Bill.
Yep. His son was on the team this year.
Oh, so Frank Gore.
Frank Gore for San Francisco against the Ravens.
Oh, okay.
In one of the 2 Super Bowls I didn't watch. Just because.
That was a great game.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. It was all Baltimore, and then San Francisco made it interesting.
And the lights went out somewhere in there, too. That was pretty wild.
Gore went for 110, and then the most recent guy to do it had a claim to the MVP, but as often happens, the quarterback took it.
Didn't we talk about this guy just the other day? Is this James White? Did he have a big... No, he had receiving in that game. Okay, so it's not him.
No. It's tough. Chiefs.
I don't know.
Damian Williams.
Okay, right. Yes. Right.
Damian Williams is the last back to go over 100 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
104. So there you go. There's something. There's something you can talk about at dinner. Hey, honey, guess what?
Something you can talk about at dinner.
I've got something for you.
If you remember all of that. Like,
coming up on Valentine's Day.
6:08. Ask me the question again. I'm probably going to forget Damian Williams.
Andrew.
Right?
See if Andrew gets it. The Bills-Giants would have been one where guys on different teams each went over 100.
Right.
Colts-Bears.
O.J. Anderson, man.
Thurman and then O.J. Anderson, right. And his fancy 102.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to give that guy the award.
Forearm atomic elbow smash to the face of Mark Kelso.
How is that allowed?
I don't think it is.
The roundhouse right?
Yeah. I mean, he comes from do folks know? I mean, does the show ever sound older? The highlights from Super Bowl 25, there is a slow motion ground level shot of Anderson. And I mean, his knuckle on his right arm, I think it's his right arm. He's got the ball in his left arm the way I see it in my head, but it could be reversed. It's like his hand scrapes the ground. He comes up from so low to, whoa, Kelso right under the chin. What an awful, awful tactic.
You should be ejected.
Thrown out of the game, and your team should be disqualified from winning.
Fined, at least.
Just should hand over the trophy immediately.
Yes.
All right.
Many have said
right
that should have been done. They should have been disqualified from the game immediately. Game over.
Man.
Mike is with us. Hello, Mike.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Great. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. I'll start with Myles Garrett. I don't care if we give 2 or 3 number ones. We need to get him. He is going to put the team over the top. But as far as the trade is concerned, I would not trade Gregory Rousseau. I would trade Epinenza.
Epinesa, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would trade him. I would keep Von Miller because here's the thing. I know Von Miller wants to stay in Buffalo because he just bought a house.
Sal thinks he'll be gone for what it's worth.
Well, I know he does, but I don't.
Okay.
I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna take a cut, and
okay.
I think he's gonna be there. So that's the one point. The other point is you were talking about schedules.
Yes.
If the Kansas City Chiefs do not win the Super Bowl, I would like to see the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills in Game 1 in Buffalo on either Sunday night or Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And the last game of the season, the last regular season game in the stadium, I would love to see the Bills in Miami because regardless of how the Patriots have been with us throughout the years, I've been watching football since 1969, and there's no question that the number one rivalry is the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
It's the number one.
Thanks, Mike.
I like both of these ideas. If the Chiefs don't win, I like them for a Sunday night game against the Bills. I think your first foray into the schedule for next year was Baltimore. That totally works too. Sunday night, same deal. And yeah, we talked already earlier, and I like the Miami idea for the end myself too.
What did they do this year? Oh, Rams-Lions was the Sunday night game.
Right.
They have dressed up certain of these matchups in week 1 recently. I don't think they'd go as far as Kansas City Buffalo. It's like the game of the year.
Yeah.
So you put that on, sweeps Bulldog. You put that on in November.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do with that game.
At 4:25.
But it's not impossible.
No, and really maybe the thing, once you open the door just a little bit on the schedule, it's just, not that it's taking over or anything, but I think NBC could have a claim to make. Like, you CBS, you're squatting on Bills Chiefs 425 every year. We'd like a shot at that once. Can we make that this year, please? You can have the Bills and Ravens on in November at 425 if you want, okay? But we want a little taste of Mahomes and Allen because we never get it. I don't know how those meetings go, but if I worked for NBC, I would dress a lot differently.
You are on camera every day.
Yeah, I know, but I would.
But you have to buy your own stuff.
Yeah, right. I would think a wardrobe subsidy. Anyway, I would want to make that point. Like, when's our turn to get some of this?
They had the game in 21. It was a Sunday night game.
Okay, they did.
That the Bills won big.
Oh, right. Okay,
that was Sunday night.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Last three have been CBS.
Well, then it's time again. I stand by everything I said.
Does Howard Simon come in and pick the Chiefs ever? Isn't that important? Next year, like, how many games will the Bills need to win next year? I want to say something about what you've been saying with respect to next year in Kansas City. I don't know. Like, I make fun of myself as I'm one of the suckers that's picking against them in these games.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep losing. I'm doing it again. I'm totally into the Eagles on Sunday. Double digits. I'm in. That's my call. So, I'll be right here again next week and for the next 9 months to be told how stupid that is.
Right.
How much did you actually lose? Time after time. Fine. You were saying earlier this week, inevitable.
Right.
Like, if they win Sunday, that you're just never going to beat them. I don't know. I don't feel that way. I think it's still like you're just as due, if not more so, next time.
Mm-hmm.
And the games are so close. What there is, and this was this year too, is sort of the so what feeling about the regular season, even if you do pass them because of the playoff history, because of winning here last year. That was this year. Like, all right, fine, good. Win your division. Win your 12, 13 games. Went as well as you could have hoped for. And they finished 2 games back. So what we need is for Howard or someone else to pick the Chiefs' schedule. This is his thing.
Yeah.
And tell me how many games next year I'm going to need to pass them. There still will be that feeling that, so what if it's the playoffs?
Yep.
No matter what happens on Sunday. They have been to the AFC Championship 7 years in a row. So, maybe they won't make it next year, right? Like, maybe they won't. They've been there 7 years in a row.
That's one of my favorite sighs of all time. Just right there. Like, come on. I know it. But, like, hearing it, every time I hear it, I make a sound. I can't. I guess I can't process it. I hear it. I know it. I believe it. I don't.
Oh boy.
I don't think it's fake, but it's still every time it sort of takes the air out of me.
How do you like their home schedule next year, the Chiefs? It's not the last year of their stadium, but it's pretty amazing. The Bills' home schedule next year is great. Division, Baltimore, Cincinnati, both great. Kansas City, great. Philadelphia, great. New Orleans and Tampa.
Right.
9 games.
In this case, mostly, I say great is synonymous with really friggin' hard.
Yes. But all are just like, except for the
Bucks and Saints.
There's 4 games, Chiefs, Ravens, Bengals, Eagles, at Buffalo, that are all just monsters.
Yep.
Those are all great. They could all be at night. They're just 4 beauties. And the division is the division, and then the other 2. Here's Kansas City at home next year, the same 9 games. One of these games could end up in, like, Peru or something. Is Peru on the waiting list?
It's Ireland.
We had Brazil. Ireland next year. That's
Ireland
Pittsburgh
next
and
year.
somebody?
Yeah, Pittsburgh and somebody. Yeah.
Green Bay? Does that sound right?
They've been rumored. We'll talk to Andrew in less than an hour. He'll fill us in.
Kansas City at home next year. Denver, Vegas, Chargers. Houston. Houston's got to be. How do these teams feel about this? Houston's got to be like, again.
Yeah, welcome to our world, Houston.
That's right. The Bills were always going to Kansas City.
Come on in, Houston.
Houston has become the Bills in this way.
Let me tell you some stories.
At Kansas City, Indianapolis, Philadelphia,
okay,
Washington,
all right,
Baltimore, Detroit.
That's tasty.
That is so good.
Yeah.
All 4 of those teams, great this year. Houston won its division. That's 5, 12-win teams or more? Not Houston, but those are all monster games too.
Yeah. I can't wait until Detroit flubs a snap late on a game-winning field goal try and the Chiefs win 31-30. That'd be awesome.
If the Chiefs beat the Eagles Sunday, there are some serious options for that opener. I don't know if they do Baltimore again. They just did that.
Right.
But they did the Lions the year before. Week 1, the Lions won.
That's right. And it was sort of stunning that they got that spot, but they deserved it, as it turned out.
Philadelphia would be the rematch.
Right.
And then Washington, I mean, they're cool. I just don't like Washington and Kansas City together because it's clashy.
Yeah, the colors are tough.
It's clashy.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's tasty.
Road games, division, Dallas, Giants, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Bills. They'll do the same thing. The Chiefs will have the same season. The beasts on their schedule are all home games, plus the Bills game away. Like this year, that was cute. They lost 1. They wanted to lose 1. So they didn't have to play in Week 18. So that was cute. That was cute that they lost, the game here.
Yeah.
So they have the same schedule. Dallas, Jacksonville, Giants, Tennessee. Like, things will be different, but they're double-digit favorites on the road in all of those games right now. Or not touchdown plus.
Sure.
In all of those games. Dallas is terrible.
Giants are terrible.
Giants, Jacksonville, and Tennessee, that's like the 3 top 5 picks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we need to find someone who has a radio show that would be willing to pick the Chiefs games. If only we knew someone.
It looks like an undefeated season.
Well,
I don't think, I'm
not ready to go that far.
I promise you, I am not going to, I wasn't this year, and I will not next year be, and you weren't this year either, by the way, but be like, that doesn't matter, Bills can't beat them in the playoffs, like callers will sound like that sometimes. You will not get that from me, because I don't believe that. The games have been close. It's true.
Yeah.
Kansas City's had one more move that you weren't ready for, or whatever you want to say about last week. Still, they'll be live in those games. But there'll be a little bit less feeling. The stadium will be so much of it because these playoff losses, you don't want to think about the playoffs. You want to, you tell yourself, don't get ahead. Don't do that. Enjoy this. Enjoy the season. Enjoy these amazing Josh Allen plays and these wins, San Francisco and these other games. That's what you want to. You want to be present. You want to be in the present.
Yeah.
And next year, especially because the stadium is ending and the playoffs have been, sad.
Yeah. I doubt that I will feel like the Chiefs are inevitable by the time the season begins. Certainly, if we have a very similar type of year for both teams, which would have to be the betting favorite kind of by a mile, I think. You expect both teams to win their 11 or more games. I doubt as the playoffs come creeping that I'm going to be sitting here going, forget it, who cares? Just to explain that for anybody who maybe hasn't heard me talk about it or just you referenced it. I think it right now, that's how it feels. And I think it'll feel that way for a while. You keep losing the same team in the same sort of spot, and it just gets harder and harder. And they keep winning. They're not just beating you, they're beating everybody. And I know it's football and that nothing is that much of a sure thing. The Chiefs' season this year should tell you all you need to ever know about that. How fortunate they were to get away with it like they did and still comfortably win that 1 seed, even though the Bills had a great year. But right now, yeah, it's hard to really I peek out over my fence and all I see is Chiefs red. I just can't. That's all I'm seeing right now. It's very hard to dig out, but I will eventually dig out of that. But and I more say that for the sake of the people that live there. Like, they're never going to do it, whether it's because of McDermott or a burial ground or, like, whatever it is, right? It's like it's Buffalo, of course, that fan. That person gets more entrenched every time this happens, and those are, I know those, you're out there. I see you. I hear you. I respect you. The thing that upsets me the most, I legitimately mean this, more than seeing them win for my 91-year-old dad or my 23-year-old sports-crazed son or any of it, when the inevitable loss comes at the hands of anybody, but especially that team, I just feel like it gets harder and harder to reel people out of that headspace. Like, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It just, you get further entrenched in that. It's another year of the concrete settling in around you, and you're going to get to a point where your shoulders aren't even visible anymore. You're like you've been buried on the beach by your kids, and here comes Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid to kick you on the way by or hit you in the face with a beach ball. How's that feel? I want so bad for that to change, and the only way that changes is if somebody wins. And, the hockey team's pretty hopeless, so go Bills.
Trending up, though.
Sure. Still last.
Yeah. But a good chance to win Saturday for 5 straight.
Yep.
2 weeks off. Everybody feels better. They think you play Montreal a couple times. Detroit is 15-5 since hiring Todd McClellan.
Yeah. 2 7-game win streaks.
Huh.
A part of that.
They're right in it.
Yep.
Ugh. Detroit and Ottawa battling for playoff spots. Hi. Hello up there. Speaking of getting kicked with sand or whatever.
Yep.
803-0550 is the number. Myles Garrett, next year, the final year of the stadium. Who might you want to see the Bills play? We had a couple of calls on, or we had one call on that, and we talked about that. That's what that was. Anyway, we'll be back after the update here on WGR.
Never miss a second.
An NFL game is heading to Australia in the 2026 season. It is a multi-year agreement with the city of Melbourne, and we do know who will be the designated home team for that first game in 2026. It'll be the Rams, and on the Rams' schedule, a to-be-determined AFC East team will be on their home schedule, so the Bills could be in play for this. To the Sabres, they do have off today. They're off until Saturday when they take on Nashville, but the team is on a 4-game win streak for the first time since January of 2023. Following Saturday's game, though, the league will be on a bit of a minor break for the Four Nations face-off, and that will run from February 12th to the 20th. But the Sabres did have practice today. Some notes from that: a number of players were out due to injuries. Matthias Samuelsson, we already know, is out for Saturday. He's dealing with a lower body injury. Dylan Cousins, also a lower body issue, but he has not been ruled out against Nashville. And then Tage Thompson, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, good news for them. They do appear to have a good chance to play against Nashville. Thompson just needs to clear concussion protocol. He did skate earlier this morning, while Luukkonen was held out of yesterday's game with a minor injury. At your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines, kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
And got a B scoring chance, which was their only really good chance in the third period. So if you're asking your goalie, only to make 1 or 2 saves and don't take any penalties, your odds of winning a hockey game go way up. And I think we failed that test early in the year. I think we're starting to pass the test now.
Lindy Ruff this morning on WGR. Check it out at the Odyssey app. You can watch our shows now on YouTube.
Twitch, too. Don't forget about Twitch.
Twitch, which is, I don't know what that is, but
I think it's a gaming platform.
Twitch?
I don't know what that really means, but that's what the kids tell me.
All right, great.
Yep.
Glad to have Twitch.
Yep.
Welcome, Twitch.
Love Twitch.
They're welcoming us. I enjoy the self-deprecating technology stuff. It's mostly true. Not always. I will once in a while overdo it.
Yeah.
I've heard of Twitch, but don't ask me to define it.
I also have heard of Twitch. You know how I've heard of Twitch?
Since they started carrying us?
BINGO.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How about that? Isn't that amazing?
I'm thrilled to be there.
Bulldog
Any other platforms want to put us up, I'm game.
Bulldog likes Twitch, doesn't like fizzy water. We learned earlier.
Do not like fizzy water.
That's interesting. I wouldn't think there'd be people who wouldn't like fizzy water.
I don't know.
Right? Yeah. Isn't fizzy water
it's a
like
tough question to ask me. I don't like it.
Sparkling water.
Yeah.
It's extra. Sparkling water. You go to a fancy restaurant, do you want tap water, still, sometimes they'll say, or sparkling. Sparkling's going to be more.
Yeah.
But you don't like it. If it were less, you wouldn't go for it.
No. All I drink now at night is regular water. I have this big thermos jug at home that I brought it in maybe once or twice to work. I'm not the guy that carries it everywhere yet, but I take it with me when I go golfing. I take it with me when I go to the golf simulator, and I have it with me at every waking hour I'm in my house, basically. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I don't have it in the morning, but when I get home tonight, I'll take it out of the fridge. I'll have it there. I'll take it to bed with me, so I have it there if I need it at night. And that's all I drink. That and, on the weekend I have some beer.
Water and beer. No milk? You're a milk guy. I thought you were a milk guy.
Milk, I get some milk in a protein shake every day.
Okay.
That's how I'm doing that. So I guess I drink a protein shake every day. I should add that but that's it. Not much variety.
No coffee anymore?
I do have coffee, too.
Coffee, 4. We're up to 4. Right. You're about to
but that's
a regular number.
I'm telling you, that's it. Until you say another thing.
No fruit juice?
No. I can never get it. If we have it in the house, it's gone 2 minutes after it gets in the fridge. I mean, I live with animals, also known as 23 and 21-year-old boys. Men.
Who love orange juice, apparently.
Just all the good stuff goes. I hide stuff. I have to hide stuff.
You're not hiding the juice.
They're not pigs. I'm kidding. But it's you live with other people that, hiding
live with other people. Explain.
Hiding the juice would be tough. But, Snacks, like a back of the fridge, like I'm high. Oh, cold cuts. Let me tuck that under the cheese. Maybe they won't see that.
So
the cereal that I like, forget about chips. Well, I have like a treasure chest for chips when I buy chips, and I have no idea where they are. Because if they're out there,
about to start looking.
If they're out there in the wild, yeah, great. Easter egg hunt. Good luck, guys.
Rip through your bedroom.
That stuff is out there available. It's just gone. It'll be like living with raccoons.
But we will get to your calls. Bulldogs kids are 23 and 21.
Yeah. Well, Leo's going to be 21 in a few weeks.
Mine are 15 and 13. And here's what they do. I buy these fizzy water cases.
Mm-hmm.
What they'll do is, to spite each other, open one and just not touch it. Just leave it on the table all day.
There's a lot of that.
To claim
There's
it.
a lot of that in my house.
So you walk around my house, you pick up a can of fizzy water, it's open, it's maybe full.
Right.
There's a chance that it has not even been touched.
I don't know
it's
that
on purpose.
I don't know that my kids are fighting in that way, but those cans are all over my house.
And my daughter doesn't like the fizz as much as, but she's more like you. So she just wants it. That's her. He just does it to claim it. Right?
Uh-huh. Right.
And more and more, I don't even know if I should say this one. I made pasta for them yesterday. I often will make dinner before I leave for work. And so I made just simple pasta. Or 2 days ago. And my daughter wanted to eat last night, and she looked in the pantry, and she asked me if she could make noodles. I'm like, well, don't, because we've got some in the fridge. We didn't eat them all, so we've got some in the fridge. She didn't want them.
Yeah.
Because she said he put his hand in the noodles to get his share. He just grabbed them out of the bowl. And now she says she will not eat the noodles. And, that kind of thing just compounds because he loves it, right? He's got the power over her. He knows, like, I'm just going to stick my hand.
Right.
And she's like, you should see where he puts his hand. So he puts his hand right in grabs the noodles. And so he's got the power and he's flexing, 'cause she's not going to eat the rest. I get the rest too, since I touched it, right? And more and more now, like, she's just not going to want to eat for whatever different reason.
Right.
He did this. He opened the pop and didn't drink, whatever. They're good kids. But they do like to, they're brother and sister and normal stuff.
I guess maybe as long as she's not really upset about him, quote unquote, ruining the food for her, but he eats it and it doesn't go to waste because she's not eating it, then, okay, you guys are fine. I think would be my parenting approach on that.
I should have let her make her own. I didn't know
right
at the time that there was this controversy. Bob is next. Hello, Bob.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to chime in on the Bills off season. To me, the whole wide receiver thing needs to be addressed, but it goes back to that press conference with Cooper that just really rubbed me the wrong way. I know that we moved on from Diggs because Diggs was a bit of a diva and had that, that aura that he needed a certain number of touches a game. But I've got a real problem with a guy who says, I don't really care if I'm getting the ball as long as we're winning. Like, you need a little bit more of an alpha in that position from a receiver. And I don't know that that's on this team. There's not really a vertical threat. That's what I'd look to upgrade. But then also, I think defensively, that's where we've come up short in the playoffs, and it's been depth at corner. And I don't want to make fun of the University of Buffalo here, but it's not exactly a sterling, it's not DBU, and Sean McDermott's turning around and making Cam Lewis, Jamarcus Ingram, and a variety of other guys who knows what they would be doing otherwise outside of being in Buffalo and turning them into serviceable players, and we can't do anything with Kaiir Elam. To me, you have to give the benefit of the doubt to the coaching staff to say they know how to develop defensive back talent. They changed the defensive backs coach last year. Cut bait with Elam and just move on and find somebody that fits the system, but don't put a priority on it in the draft. Go get Myles Garrett. Go get an impact player on the defensive line. But between D-line and wide receiver, that's where this team needs to upgrade. And, I'm raw still after going to the Kansas City game, frustrated with losing to them again. But there's nothing really worth blowing up about this team other than just fixing those two things. I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks, Bob. Interesting. That is full circle, or is it half? From a guy being a problem because he's greedy to we need a guy, it's a problem,
right.
We don't have a guy who's greedy. I mean, that's a step past where I've heard this already. I mean, a lot of people are here for, I'm not saying it's wrong. I think it might be a good point. A lot of people have gotten to somebody better at the position, not so often to, I didn't like it when he said, I don't care if I get the ball. We're very particular here as a society. Right. We want you to care, but not too much. Not too little, not too much. And it's still based on public comments anyway.
Right.
Fine line there. Interesting on corner. I've been thinking this.
Elam's done. You don't have to worry about Elam. Like, I cannot No, I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where he's back after how that went. The caller makes the right point. Like, they have coached up a lot of guys and made them into players that can be counted on to some extent. I mean, guys that made big play, but Ingram had a pick 6 this year for this team. And Elam, you just can't seem to get him to a place where he can even be serviceable for you. It's just time. Like, you can't keep that guy on your depth chart, even in a break glass in case of emergency scenario, which is what happened, in the championship game, and it just did not work. So you got to just say that's it. Like the opportunity to trade him even for something commensurate, some other struggling guy at a different position or even the same position, I think is gone. A late round pick, I think, is gone. Like, the guy is just, he'll catch on somewhere, but you're not getting anything for him, and I think you just got to let him go.
Yeah, I might be surprised if he's on the roster as well. I was thinking this. I kind of want to just say a thing, and then maybe if it's a bad take, just sort of like disown it.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's a good point. With Kincaid and with Shakir to an extent, the offense has always felt kind of capped to me. They had an outstanding season, and it worked. It worked. But I've got these two guys, Knox plays. I don't want to ignore the season because this is a lot of how I felt last year. But I'm not going to use Shakir as an X. I've got Kincaid, and I'm sort of like hamstrung a little bit. It might be an okay point, this. Taron Johnson has me thinking this way, too, where, like, he does not come off the field, hardly ever. Maybe short yardage, certain specific situations, but Taron Johnson, he 94% against Kansas City. And he's great.
Little less than that against Baltimore, but sure. Yeah, generally speaking, they want him on the field, yes.
And he got hurt against Baltimore, or was it against Denver? He got hurt against Denver for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, maybe both teams. I don't know. Anyway, he's on the field. He's a staple of that defense. And, we had a year, teams running the ball more. I wonder what he does in sort of a backwards way to limit what they think they need to do in the secondary. Like, is it less of a priority because of him? Do they want to maybe be bigger but feel like they can't be because of him? I'm sure it's not like that. I don't really think it's a good point. But I do wonder sometimes if these sort of, if you will, I don't mean this in a bad way, but kind of oddball personnel situations makes it less than perfect for them to, be something.
I think it's, No, I think you want to know if if they maybe even sit around like at this time of the year when it's everything's let's talk about it all, right? That's what we're here for. We got a lot of time, so let's talk about everything. And is any idea like backward engineering your way to making the defense better? Is that like a is that in your way? Is that block the path? Like, do you find yourself saying, well, if we could do this or that, yeah, but Taron Johnson. Well, okay, well maybe we try that. Yeah, but we want to have, and you just keep ending up on Taron Johnson. And this is not meant. I don't think you were meaning it to sound this way at all. And suddenly the way I'm making it sounds like they have reason to be down on Taron Johnson. But I wonder if it is an impediment to an extent for them having as much variety as they might like there, because I think they'd be right, at least as of now, to say, like, there's at least a comfort level with him on the field all the time, if not flat out, that's my best 11. Like, if he's out there, that's better than some other dude in that spot, a linebacker or some other DB playing whatever. Yeah, I wonder, like, how much. I think his performance, still warrants him having the status he has, but I don't know. I wonder how open they are to even talking about it.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, Andrew Filipponi in 15 minutes. This is WGR. Steelers and Super Bowl licks coming up at 6 with Andrew Filipponi. Licks at 6, some are saying.
What is this now?
LIX.
Licks.
Super Bowl LIX.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Licks.
Yeah, I didn't.
Licks at 6.
I didn't. I guess I haven't looked
You
at
didn't get
it. I didn't look at the letters. I don't. You know what I mean? I didn't know the. Yeah, that makes sense now.
One Super Bowl did not have letters. Officially.
Wait, which one?
50. They called that one Super Bowl 50. They did not call it Super Bowl L.
Oh.
You know, L. Take the L.
I mean, marketing-wise, I guess that's a pretty good decision.
Officially, that was Super Bowl 50, the number 50.
No.
They could have written out the word 50. Got really clever there, but no. One Super Bowl did not have letters. Another did not have a national anthem.
Hey, now.
Super Bowl 11, Oakland, Minnesota, at the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
The national anthem was not sung. Vicky Carr. You remember Vicky Carr, singer?
Sure, I have all her records.
They sang America the Beautiful instead. Now, the last 15 years or so, they do both. America the Beautiful has been sung before every Super Bowl for kind of a long time now. I think Trombone Shorty maybe on Sunday is involved, which is awesome.
That makes sense.
Been to see him at Art Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before that game, they just did America the Beautiful only and no national anthem. And I don't know why.
Yeah. I see that game.
Isn't it pretty?
Sunshine, the purple, Blitnikoff with all the stick 'em on his pants.
Yeah.
I totally.
And wrists.
Yeah, I just totally
glue.
See that game.
Rubber cement all over himself.
Just a blue sky
Go ahead, buddy.
in the background, like just a beautiful California day.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah.
He won the MVP as a receiver, but did not score a touchdown. He gets stopped at the 1-yard line like 3 times. Wow. Wasn't that Rice, too, in the game where he went off against the Bengals? I think he didn't score in that game. I'll check that. I know you want to know.
The Bengal game with the kick return and the winning pass to John Taylor?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think he scored in that game.
He didn't, right? He had 200-some yards.
Huge game, yeah.
But did not score a touchdown.
Yeah. What did Blitnikoff do in that game without scoring? 12 for 180 or something?
It wasn't that big. No, it was not that big. 32-14 final. 4 for 79 and 0.
That's the MVP of the Super Bowl.
That was the MVP.
This game was on broadcast television?
It was on NBC, Gowdy and Meredith. Yeah. You watched it.
Yeah.
You just said how much you enjoyed it.
Right. The highlights are very memorable, and yes, I did watch it.
Clarence Davis got snubbed.
Cannot believe he won MVP with that stat line.
16 for 137 on the ground. Nope. Fred, if Krautwurst is listening right now, he's going to be furious at you. Because his dad, Blitnikoff, was his dad's favorite player.
Well, he can be as furious as he
defensive.
wants, but he's got to hear the facts. And the facts are that's a terrible stat line to be the Super Bowl MVP with.
It's bad. Yeah. Well, that award was kind of all over the place in the day.
What are these voters doing?
Chuck Howley.
Trying to get everybody a turn?
Chuck Howley,
Randy White, and Harvey Martin sharing it.
The beautiful Harvey Martin.
Yeah.
Is that what he went by, I believe? Yes. That's one of my best collectibles is in my Super Bowl helmet collection, one signed by both White and Martin. Martin had been dead a long time when I got it. And that was like a hard one to get because I wanted them both with the inscription Super Bowl 12 MVP. But I got it. That's a big one.
It doesn't say co-MVP?
No, it doesn't. I'm not sure they both wrote it. I think so. I will check.
All right.
And report back. We will talk to Joe Ostrowski tomorrow, Sam Panayotovich on Friday with their prop fun with this game in mind. Tyler Dunn will join us on Friday as well. He's in New Orleans. Next, Andrew Filipponi from Pittsburgh. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Got something to say? Say it anytime. A Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
The Buffalo Sabres are on a 4-game win streak. They only have one game, though, until a minor break here coming up for the NHL as they will take on Nashville this Saturday. And then following that, from February 12th to the 20th, it'll be the Four Nations face-off. Some notes from practice today. Matthias Samuelsson out for Saturday's game. He's dealing with a lower body injury. Dylan Cousins also has a lower body issue, but he's not been ruled out just yet. And then Tage Thompson and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen both thought to have a good chance to play against Nashville. Thompson just needs a clear concussion protocol. He did skate earlier this morning, while Luukkonen was held out yesterday due to a minor injury. Overall, a light night for the NHL, just 3 games at 7. The Rangers are going to host Boston. 9:30 sees the Oilers traveling to Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. And 10:30, the Kings will host Montreal. And then news out of the NFL, as the league continues to branch out to different continents for regular season games. As it was announced today, the game will be held in Australia starting in 2026. It's a multi-year agreement with the city of Melbourne. We do know the Rams are going to be the home team for this first game, and a to-be-determined AFC East team will be on the Rams' home schedule. So the Bills could be in play for this. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
We were having a very serious conversation about mayonnaise here.
And the Bulldog.
And don't even talk to me about weed.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Started to tell you this earlier. We were talking about the 1970 season.
Of course we were.
The first year where the leagues were merged. There were the 4 Super Bowls before, but the first year where everybody played, within the same league. And the first game of the season was a Cardinals-Rams game that was played on a Friday night at 11 Eastern. I don't know if there was TV coverage of this game or just what. That's how the season started. Imagine that now. And the Rams won. The Rams' second game was here. And I went to Gridiron Uniforms. Ray Scott, Pat Summerall. Like, this would have been a big game nationally. The Rams beat the Bills at War Memorial Stadium 19-0. So then I called up the 70 Bills, not the 90 Bills, the 70 Bills.
Mm-hmm.
52 turnovers.
In 14 or 12
yep,
even.
14 games.
12? Okay,
14 games. 52 turnovers in 14 games. This year, what do the Bills have, 8?
Yeah, right. I was going to say, how far do you got to go back to find 52 turnovers?
As it happens, the 79 Steelers. One of my favorite stats is they dominated to a Super Bowl championship with 52 turnovers plus like another 12 in the playoffs or something. Insane. Right. Yeah. You're not supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean for the Bills, currently. Going from here to where, how far do you got to go back? How many seasons you got to go back to get to 52 turnovers?
4? Maybe 3?
Yeah. Wow.
Was it 8 this year?
I think it was 8 this year. They had quite a few
turnovers.
The year before. Allen was, probably cost him the MVP last year.
Andrew Filipponi, did you know the Bills' last lost fumble was in Week 4?
Wow, I did not. I did know that John Brody was the 1970 NFL MVP.
Yes.
Something else about him: qualified for the U.S. Open twice.
Golf.
Yes.
All right, that's good.
Yeah, that's nice.
Anything else?
During his playing career or after he was done playing football?
Once when he was still playing, and the other when he was broadcasting games, I think, for CBS.
All right.
In the early 80s, he made it. So he made it in the 50s, I think, in the 80s. It's pretty cool.
He was the color man for the Bills' first ever playoff game in the 70s, like at Pittsburgh with Jim Simpson.
Yeah. OJ got shut down in that game.
Yep.
They came right down and scored an early touchdown in that game, too, as a matter of fact.
Bill scored first, and then Pittsburgh blew them out in the second quarter of that game.
Like the Bills-Denver game this year.
Yep. Andrew, Nance and Romo have had the last 8 Bills playoff games, and I wondered if that might be a record. I mean, now with different networks, Super Bowls where it's a different network, right? Like, I thought maybe it was. So my guy for this is a guy named Andy Provin, who's just like the encyclopedia on all kinds of stats like this. The stuff you can't just look up. This is my guy, Andy. And he and I brainstormed a little bit, and he found the 80s Giants had Summerall and Madden like 12 times in a row. And the Super Bowl they went to against Denver was a CBS game. So they had a streak from 81 through the 80s, probably ending maybe Super Bowl 25 with on ABC.
Right, because that's Al with
Frank and Dan.
There you
Al,
go.
Frank, and Dan. Andrew,
I want to say Carla set the record for the longest field goal in a Super Bowl in the first half of that game, and the record for the shortest one missed.
he did miss from like 22 or something. Because a buddy of mine, an old friend of mine, had 0-9 in the squares, and like you just hate your life. It was like a really big entry fee, 0-9, and the halftime score was 10-9 because of that miss, and there was a safety, and the final score was 39-20. He won both.
Wow,
0 and 9 won both.
That was also heavy set Summerall. He had a phase there where he was bigger. You go back and watch that game.
All right.
Seriously. He's almost bigger than Madden. It's crazy.
I don't remember that at all. I'm sure I watched dozens of games he was doing in that era, but I don't remember him being heavy like that.
Did you ever meet him?
Oh, I did. Summerall?
Yeah.
So we had a guy here who was the Pirates sideline reporter for a number of years who was Summerall's producer when he was in his last legs at Fox, when he was basically doing the bottom of the barrel, Bad Cowboys, Quincy Carter era games, and Brian Baldinger was his analyst. And that team the entire year, because Pat knew it was going to be his last, Robbie told me, the guy's name's Robbie Anthony, told me that they would give Pat a word to work into the broadcast every week. And in week 17, they gave him tampon, and he couldn't do it.
For the last game of his career?
True story. Yeah. He couldn't pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, that would have been tough.
I don't. Did you ever meet? You didn't.
We saw him.
We saw
one
him.
time together, but we did not interact.
You want a story, Andrew? It's Super Bowl week. My favorite. This is to me. If anybody ever, what's it like being on Radio Row for Super Bowl week? This is the story that they get from me. We're sitting there. It's Detroit, the last one that we went to, so it's a long time ago now.
Pittsburgh.
Seahawks.
Right. So here comes, it's like Friday, I think, Radio Row. Like, we're getting ready to get out of there. It's late in the week, and here comes Summerall walking with a couple of handlers, whatever, PR people, but it's Pat Summerall. And like Mike and I think we were in a break, and I just remember like being very starry-eyed and like, oh my God, it's Pat Summerall. This is amazing. Oh my! And we're like sort of nudging each other, and I swear to God, Andrew, right behind him are walking like 3 or 4 of the Vivid porn girls. With the same thing, with like a PR team. And I'm just like, that's the Super Bowl. That is Radio Row at the Super Bowl.
And they weren't together?
No, I don't believe they were together.
They weren't a package deal?
It was just amazing, the optics. I wish, I had a camera and a phone, like all that, because it was just incredible to see that all at the same time. It was amazing.
Mike, you brought up how Summerall and Madden had that run of Giants playoff games.
Yeah.
84 Giants-Rams wild card game, right? That's the year Dickerson sets the record.
Yeah.
Who is the Rams quarterback in that game? Buffalo connection.
Vince Ferragamo.
No.
It's the year before Dieter Brock. 84 Rams. Oh,
yep.
Kemp. Jeff Kemp.
Jeff Kemp.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was the only year I think he was a starting quarterback in the NFL.
And Brock comes out of the CFL the next year for the Rams, plays the season, goes to the NFC Championship. They get buried by Chicago, and he's out of the league. 1 year. 1 year NFC Championship, out.
It's interesting with them. They had all those years in the 70s where they couldn't win the NFC Championship game. They go in 79 and beat the Cowboys, like an all-time upset. And then they were good again at times in the 80s, and in 89, I think they lost the NFC Championship. Not 89.
Yes.
Was it 89 they lost the NFC Championship game, Jim Everett?
Yes, badly.
They might have more NFC Championship game losses than any franchise, now that I think about it.
85, 89, a few to Minnesota, a couple to Minnesota, Dallas, yeah. We got to talk about Pittsburgh before we run out of time. The Steelers, the current Steelers.
Why? Oh, my God. Seriously?
Well, a couple of big questions. Quarterback has to be the biggest. I saw a tweet from you, I think maybe last week, where your guess was Fields, and I'm seeing more of that. How solid do you think that is?
Well, I think there's no chance with Russell Wilson now. I mean, I think his PR engine is in full roar here with the kind of stories that have been linked here. I mean, just trying to make it sound like it was the coaching staff's fault for the way the season ended, having very little to do with him. He wanted to do it one way. They wanted to do it the other. They went with the coach's direction, and it blew up in their face, and now Russ is trying to make it seem like he was almost a martyr throughout all of that. So I don't think that'll happen. I honestly don't see a market for him at all. I don't even think he'll be in the NFL next year as a quarterback because I don't see him going the Joe Flacco route and just bouncing around with teams as a backup. And I think Fields has a desire to not have to learn a new offense. I think that he doesn't completely trust Tomlin because of the way he got benched here this year. But I also think there might be a little bit of fear going into free agency and thinking that there's going to be a lot of offers and then there's not, like when he was traded here for only a 6th-round pick last offseason. So I think at the end of the day, they'll find a compromise deal where he gets probably a contract that looks a lot like the one Minshew got from the Raiders. And the Steelers will be, banging their head against a brick wall again next year, finding a way to win 9 to 10 games and getting absolutely skull-dragged in the playoffs again.
Is there an outside idea that's realistic that you like?
I mean, Stafford would be great. That's probably the one that seems pretty far-fetched, but the thing that I'm, I guess, kind of clinging to, that for whatever reason it just doesn't work in L.A. and McVay wants to reboot with a young quarterback or another quarterback, and he comes here, but I don't know why a guy in his late 30s would want to come to an offensively challenged team where it seems like they're trying to win games the way the 1974 Steelers did. But other than that, I mean, I really can't think of anything. The draft, I don't see them moving up to take Cam Ward or Sanders. I don't see them hitching their wagons to any of like the mid-round quarterbacks in this draft and kind of tanking the year and then going into 2026 and having a bad enough record where they don't have to trade up to get one. And this is not interesting to me so much, but I don't think Daniel Jones is completely out of the question because I wouldn't be surprised if Arthur Smith might see some Ryan Tannehill traits in him thinking in this offense. Yeah, I know.
What about Ryan Tannehill?
Right.
Where's he?
He didn't play at all this year.
No.
Thank God for Josh Allen. That's all I'm thinking over here, Andrew, as you're talking about Justin Fields being a good idea and pivoting to Daniel Jones.
Back to like J.P. Losman and Trent Edwards conversations with you guys.
Are any of these good ideas? I mean, even Fields. No, right?
No.
Wow.
They're awful.
Oh, that is brutal.
How about Pickens? You're not a fan.
No. How could you be? Guy's a complete knucklehead. Showed up to games like the Chiefs game late.
Yeah.
After the inactives came out, and he had a hamstring injury that they wanted to test in pregame, and they couldn't even do that because of when he showed up. I've never seen a team during games waste more time and energy trying to make sure that a guy was focused and locked in, and that would include the times that I saw Antonio Brown flip Gatorade coolers and scream in Todd Haley's face and basically get as far away from Ben Roethlisberger as humanly possible on the sideline because of issues with Ben not throwing the ball as much as he wanted, or Ben being mad at AB and deliberately like trying to phase him out of offensive possessions. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a pattern of behavior here with the wide receivers the Steelers pick up. They get 1 or 2 good years out of them, and then the guys turn into basket cases or deem that they're better and that there's greener pastures out there, and they basically try to pout their way out of town.
What do you think Sunday?
I want the Eagles so bad. I really do. And I have like no affinity for that team per se. I mean, it's not like I don't have a soft spot for the Eagles whatsoever, but I just don't want to live in a world where I have to hear comparisons to like the Chiefs having won 3 and how that ranks them ahead of the 70s Steelers or the 90s Cowboys or the 60s Packers and things like that. So, yeah, I'm hoping that Philadelphia wins the game pretty handily. How about you boys? Same.
I've talked myself into Philadelphia winning.
Yeah, by a lot even, I think.
Wanting them to win or like
no, really winning.
Yeah.
Really winning. If it's close, it's Kansas City, but I don't see Kansas City winning big. I see Philadelphia if it's that way, and I think it's possible. They have a great team.
I think for me, Andrew, this is as close to a game. I think it could be a great game. But despite that, it's as close as I'll ever get to not wanting to watch the Super Bowl. I will watch it out of a sense of duty. I mean, I have a job. I'm going to want to see the game. But I couldn't hate it. I cannot stand Philadelphia. I mean, Sirianni's from Jamestown, but I just don't. So I don't want to dog him because it's close enough to local. But I don't, him jabbing at the fans earlier this year is just like, dude, clown shoes. What are you doing? Like, you're letting us know who you are right there. I don't care how much you step away from it. You did that, and that's embarrassing. Big Dom, the whole thing, just, ugh, they're gross. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Lay your hands on the Niners linebacker again, why don't you? Like, he's everywhere the cameras are all the time. It's the worst. And then, the other side is, well, need I even say it? The other side is the other side. So, Meteor. But I guess I'd pick Philly. I guess I'd root for Philly.
Do you guys know the story about how Sirianni got into NFL coaching?
No, I don't. His father was a coach, though, maybe?
Well, so he spent time on Lake Chautauqua.
Right.
Like when he was in his years coming out of college and playing at Mount Union. And Todd Haley's family had a big camp up there.
Oh.
And he would spend the off seasons before they'd go to training camp up there. And he would play pickup basketball games with Nick Sirianni. And I guess Todd told him, if I ever become a head coach in the NFL, I'm going to hire you onto my staff, just like an entry-level job. And so when he became the Chiefs head coach, he kept his word, and he hired him as a quality control guy.
Pretty good.
He owes his career basically to playing basketball near Jamestown, New York, and running into an NFL coach there.
It's hard right now to remember the Chiefs having a different coach than the one they have. But, it was Haley and then Romeo Crennel setting things up for Andy Reid. Crennel doesn't get enough of the credit.
Crennel beat the 2011 Packers, who were undefeated the second to last week of the season, and they gave him a extension because of that.
And he
was an interim coach.
2-14.
Correct.
Whoops.
You guys are the best.
You're the best.
You're the best. Come on.
We're 7th, I saw.
I'll tell you.
Right? Yeah, we're 7th. Yeah, 7th, Andrew.
I love the picture, by the way, that they had of you guys.
I know.
Where did they find that?
There was a video we did for Roswell Park. They took it from there. So,
right.
Yeah, we're just sitting we're in class.
Yeah.
When I was in the M&T club for the Ravens game, I sat next to a guy. His name's Christopher from Hamburg. He's a teacher out there, and he could not love you guys and appreciate you guys. I think that's probably the biggest fan of yours I've ever encountered in my entire life. So that was really cool to be back for.
Very nice.
I guess high point of the season. Yep.
Thanks for sharing that. We got to go, Andrew.
You bet.
We'll keep in touch.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
Peace.
Andrew Filipponi with the Ross Tucker. See you guys. Right there at the end.
Oh, yeah,
or is that the Andrew? Is Ross doing Andrew when he says that? See you guys. Right? That's Ross. It's Ross's sign-off.
Yep.
7th. So somebody ranks shows. I don't know how you rank them.
I don't know either.
But we're always on that list, somewhere in the middle. And
somewhere in
Morning
there.
Guys, too, were they were 8th?
Yes, they were 8th. Losers.
That somebody needs to decorate this room, and I think it's us with 7s all over it.
Yeah.
That's what we should just post some 7s. Mike Tanier joined us earlier to talk Bills and the Super Bowl. That's next on WGR.
Never miss a second.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, Mike Tanier joins us from New Orleans. We've enjoyed our conversations with Mike over the years. He is the founder of Two Deep Zone.
And,
Goes back to
a
Football
great
Outsiders
guest.
for their
So thank you,
shots.
Mike. How are you?
Into a search engine. You have to send 12 cents to Pat Riley. That's the agreement they made.
You know, that's funny. They didn't even win it, the Lakers. It was just at the parade after they won their second.
I never knew that. Yeah.
Oh my God!
And with
I did not realize that. I think I've gone through the last 3 decades assuming they three-peated because they came up with the word three-peat. That is amazing.
No, they did. The Pistons took them in the finals, just like the Chiefs here.
And this goes back to then, because I thought it was even something that he did when he was in Miami.
No, it goes back, I think, 88, 89, 90.
Is where
that
filed
originated.
The trademark. Okay. Either way,
I don't know yet. I don't know about the trademark.
Okay, the trademark. Yeah, the trademark I think is in Miami, and same thing. They won 2, and he got the trademark. It became a thing, and then they didn't win a third. I think that anyway. Either way, he never won a third title in a row, but yet owns that trademark. And here are the Chiefs. Bulletin board time for the Eagles.
Right, Mike?
You know what? You should not be allowed to trademark something unless you did it. That should be the rule. He should have that trademark taken away.
That seems fair. Is it about to happen here for the Chiefs, in your opinion?
You know, when I look at it with my football brain and my statistics brain, and I pick the brains of people who have scouting brains, we keep going back to the Eagles, the Eagles, the Eagles, the Eagles. They're somewhere between the superior team and the far superior team. If you look at the entire season, they're a far superior team. If you look at the last 8 weeks or so where the Chiefs were playing better football, I guess going back to, say, around Christmas time when they were beating the Texans and the Steelers, the Eagles are still better. So the brain says the Eagles, and then the heart, the soul, the body parts that place bets, they say
right.
They say don't do it, or don't bet against the Chiefs, and to respect the respect the mojo, so to speak. And those body parts have been working since we were talking about Tom Brady and the Patriots the same way. So the Chiefs have just replaced the Patriots as the team. Don't bet against them. Don't bet against them. You're going to lose money, and that's where we stand here on Wednesday before the Super Bowl.
You know, Mike, I spent a large part of the back end of the season. It's funny, I get time off around the holidays, and leading up to the holidays, I got pretty fond of saying the Chiefs absolutely look the part of a team that's going to have a great record, but is going to lose their first playoff game. And then you mentioned it, Houston, Pittsburgh, they sort of seemed to me like they were kind of finding a groove that they had found elusive for almost the whole year. And so I got a little shook by that, but I still thought they could get got. Like, I thought the Bills could beat them by 2 scores. And it didn't happen. And Mike just asked me, half an hour ago on our show, could the Eagles do that? And I'm like, I have to say yes, they could. I mean, I thought the Bills could, and the Eagles are, at least as good, if not better than the Bills going into this game. So it's a possibility, but man, yeah, there's a lot that you have to kind of climb through to get there.
Exactly, and it's like you can stack up all of the Eagles' advantages and say, okay, advantage in the running game, advantage on their edge rushers versus the offensive line, advantage here, advantage there, and say, does the stack add up to Mahomes and Reed and Kelsey and Jones? And like everybody sort of has to answer that their own way. But there's 2 things I keep going back to, and one is that this Eagles team on defense looks a little bit like the Buccaneers team that beat the daylights out of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And the other thing I keep going back to is that, there's just a feel around the Eagles, and there's a feel around the Patriots that keeps taking me back to the Super Bowl between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks and the Peyton Manning Broncos, where if you looked at that one on paper, it looked like it was a close call, but one team had the great quarterback and everything else like that, and the Seahawks just smoked them. So I think there's a scenario where, like you said, the Eagles smoke the Chiefs, but I think that's like 10% of your outcomes. I think the other 90% is it goes down to a field goal either way at the end, and the Chiefs won a lot of one-score games exactly that way at the end. Oh, and yes, and one thing the Eagles have is their kicker isn't very good. So that's where we land on it,
Buffalo, Kansas City was sure to be the regression bowl because the Chiefs only won one-score games, or won them all, And the Bills won the turnovers every week. So here we go. Somebody's streak is about to end, and it didn't. The Bills were +1 and lost by a field goal. So both streaks continued there. What did you think of that game, Mike? Like, there could be a lot of the same points here that the Chiefs just one way or another, they're going to win. But, I mean, Bills with the lead in the fourth quarter and had beaten Kansas City in the regular season. I doubt you were surprised by the result, but what did you think watching it?
The fourth quarter felt like an all-time classic. And, the Bills came back in the third quarter, and I expected the teams to, trade paint 3 or 4 more times in the last 4 or 5 minutes. And, like the final Bills drive, it very suddenly went south, as I recall. The Bills get, a first down or two. Mm-hmm. Then, all of a sudden, it's 2nd and 10, and they throw a screen pass, and it's like, no, don't throw a screen pass, guys. Your screen game is not working. And then it's 4th and 5, and then it's fateful at that point. But, leading up to that, I thought that, this was it. This was the chance, sort of the Destiny Bowl type of thing for the Buffalo Bills. And, we're still talking about quarterback sneak and did Allen go make it? At some point, you just have to say, look, if you want to beat this team, you have to beat them. You're not going to beat them. You're probably not going to get the call in Arrowhead. I'm sorry. Just like we talked about basketball, you're not going to get the call against Michael Jordan in the finals. It's just not going to happen that way. You have to beat them soundly, and that's what the Bills had to do, and that's probably what the Eagles are going to have to do on Sunday.
Yeah. It's hard to beat a team like that an inch at a time. Right,
exactly.
I mean that's it. So, well, from here, I mean, we'll get back to the Super Bowl, but we've sort of landed on Bills Chiefs. The way forward for the Bills, Mike. I've said a few times over the last week or so, week plus since that game and that result, that one of the hardest things I think to do as a fan, maybe it's even hard as a manager of a team, is to just sort of pick yourself up and say, okay, let's just keep going. We'll try again, because every year the Chiefs get more and more. It gets harder and harder to conceive of a way that you're going to beat them in a playoff game because you keep missing. It's 4 times now out of 5 years, and that can really wear you down mentally and emotionally. But I think the Bills are still right there, are they not?
They are, and there's the mental and emotional element of that, which I think is huge. And then there's the physical, how can we keep the guys together element. And I think we talked in the offseason right after the Bills somehow managed to keep, 80% of their roster intact by doing all kind of crazy contract stuff. And they're coming into another offseason. It's like, well, are you going to be able to keep Hamlin? You're probably not going to be able to keep Von Miller. Does that mean you're going to extend Rousseau? So keeping the guys together is one thing, and then keeping them all rowing in the same direction and not succumbing to despair is the other. The Eagles went through this in 2001, 2002, 2003 with Andy Reid, where they kept losing in championship games to a variety of teams, and they said, screw this, we're getting Terrell Owens, and we're getting Javon Curse on defense, and we're going to make these over-the-top moves. I feel like Miller was the over-the-top move. So, 2 years ago. So I don't even know that the cap space doesn't be there. It's not like you can go easily. Oh, we'll trade for Myles Garrett. We can fit that in. I don't know if you can. So I don't know how you make that next step. That said, you're right. This team is right there. They're not in a position where they're like, oh, we're in trouble. They should win the division, and they should get another bite at this apple.
With Mike Tanier here on WGR, joins us on the West Her Hotline, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. One, I think, fascinating aspect of this roster construction thing with the Bills that's changed a lot since a year ago is the receiver position. And it looked like we got to a point in the league where you really did have to have big-time wide receiver 1 and 2. Ideally, 2 if you're lucky. Then Tyreek Hill gets traded. The Chiefs win anyway. And now we had an AFC this year where Baltimore didn't really have that. Buffalo didn't really have that. Even Kansas City. It wasn't obvious. So where are you at on that? Maybe in terms of the Bills, or just if you have a league theory on this, like just what has changed, if anything, at that position in terms of its importance?
You really feel like you could have used one on that 3rd and 5. Or
yep.
Right? You don't need it because you have Josh Allen, and he can kind of compensate. Your offensive line really is great, and they can compensate. But, man, it's nice to have. And I'll say this, if you don't have that wide receiver 1, that Tyreek Hill level Justin Jefferson guy, you need the committee, and then the committee has to be as good as possible. And that's what Bills fans can look at what they have. Like, is this committee as good as possible? And you can look at it and say, no, we need improvements there. I wouldn't say you have to rush out there and get, trade up and get the best receiver or in the draft or things like that. But if you say we're going to do this with Shakir and we're going to do this with Coleman and Samuel and I guess the ghost of Amari Cooper or whatever, it's got to be a little better than that. It can't just be those guys. It's got to be a step up from those guys to take it to that Super Bowl level.
Yeah, the Cooper piece is pretty interesting, Mike, because It didn't really. I mean, he didn't put up numbers here. They didn't really use him. He wasn't on the field a lot. There was an injury that took him out of a couple games and then maybe perhaps limited him when he was even back and on the field. He was still wearing a brace on it, I think, even in the playoff games. So there could have been something there, but I think it's important to remember that they pivoted to that, before the trade deadline after going into the season, trying to do it with Shakir and Coleman and Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel and okay, everybody eats. And it didn't really change the dynamic a lot as far as, somebody ruling the roost, right? Even somebody that was conceivably sprung open by Cooper's presence. Nobody smashed, but they still felt they needed that extra guy that at least could command some attention and maybe some respect from defenses. And I don't know, at his age, I don't think it's a great idea to re-sign him, but the free agent class is... it just looks horrible. So, I don't know what they're going to do to find someone for that role unless they want to just forego it and then pivot again in October if they feel like they need to.
You don't want to keep pivoting in October because you're getting the guy another team didn't want. You're getting a guy who did not break camp with you. You're getting a guy who isn't going to get the rhythm and timing down in May and June with your quarterback, so you don't want to do that. You're right, the free agent class is not strong. You're not going to be in a good draft position. You can assume Shakir will get a little better. You can hope Coleman can get a little better. I don't think you should be going and pursuing Cooper Kupp. I think that's a great way to possibly waste money on a draft pick.
Yep.
It's a tricky situation, and so that's where team administration comes back to it and says, well, obviously we can grab some guys in the third round. Hope we find Puka in the fourth round, whatever it takes there. Maybe the solution is to get better elsewhere. Maybe if we, get strong on the offensive line, we can be a better rushing team. Maybe if we just get, stronger in the secondary, we're going to only have to score 22 points to win. Things like that. I don't know, though. I got Josh Allen. I want to maximize Josh Allen, and that means getting whatever you can at wide receiver.
Me too. With Mike Tanier. So Myles Garrett, his name has come up here, and I'm not sure the Bills are the favorite or anything because there'll be lots of interested teams. What do you have a guess as to what happens or even who? Does he necessarily get moved? The Browns have said that they're not interested. We've had this many times. What do you think is it a good idea? Is it just too easy to say it's a good idea to get a player like him?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw one guy writing. Yeah, he's a Commanders reporter, and the ups and downs of the Commanders trading for Myles Garrett, and I'm like, you found downs? You found downs to the Commanders getting Myles Garrett? Yeah, if you have to trade 7 number 1 picks or whatever, that's a down, I suppose. Another thing, one of my friends, Matt Lombardo, wrote, and he was talking to me about it, and it was called "No One in the League Will Return My Calls About Myles Garrett." And he's a guy who does insider stuff, and he'll talk to, assistant GMs and things like that, and people are ghosting him or saying, we're not following that story. And you know what that's
right.
You know what that means?
Everybody wants them.
Right.
Everybody wants them. Right. Everybody wants them. No one wants to say anything. I mean, from a Bills standpoint, there's going to be a bidding war you can't win. You don't have a high enough draft pick. You don't have enough cap space. You're not going to win the bidding war. For some of these other teams, if you're the Commanders, you're the Vikings, you're a team that's, a player or so away from a Super Bowl, Garrett is that player. He really is that guy. So I think it's going to be an interesting hot stove topic to watch.
No doubt. I find when trying to find a construct that makes sense for the Bills in this idea of acquiring Garrett, I feel like Rousseau is a key piece in that. If the Browns really like him, he's due a contract. Here's where the money, I think, can make some sense. I mean, it's still going to be more, but Rousseau's due somewhere between 22 and 25 a year on a market valuation. Garrett's $10 million more than that on a new contract. And, that first year, you can usually keep the number low, so you can find a way, I think, to finagle the money. The hitch to me is, can the Bills use Rousseau as one of those assets? Do the Browns like that idea? Do the Browns, they're already being, they got a gun to their head as it is, and here come the Bills. Oh, well, you got to take Greg Rousseau and then pay him $25 million. Right. That might be a lot to like for the Browns, but if they do, then I think the Bills could be in a decent position.
I think the Browns are not going to say, we're going to trade the 30-something million for the 20-something million contract. They want the picks. They want the picks. Right. They want to save the money. So, yeah, you could try to put something together about that. The one thing is because you got to go to Garrett and you got to say, well, here's the money. Here's how the money's going to look. The Bills can go to this guy who is frustrated right now and say, here's the potential for the ring and here's the culture. You can get Garrett. You can sell him on that. You can sell him on saying, yeah, I'll let you play cap games with the money and things like that. His end of things you can definitely sell, and that is part of the picture. It's selling the Browns on this idea when teams are going to come and have an earlier first-round pick, an earlier second-round pick, have a pick 2 years from now that's probably not going to be of a 12 or 13-win team, et cetera. Those are the things the Bills can't really put on the table.
Mike, we had an interesting season talking about the MVP race, and we both in here started the season thinking, as huge Lamar Jackson fans, I think I can say that for Bulldog too, no way he wins a third. Like, with the legacy aspect of the MVP, without the playoff success, Mahomes doesn't have 3, Allen doesn't have any. Like, come on. But then he had that season and, was first team All-Pro. Would you assume that he wins MVP tomorrow night because of that? It's been since the 80s, since the first team All-Pro quarterback didn't win the award.
Right, that's true. And I think, while I think it's going to be a closer vote, I think he's going to win it again. And you talk about what he was doing. You got to remind people, I always remind the listeners out there, they voted before the playoffs.
Right.
So they don't go in there and say, well, what about this playoff performance? Those things don't count. The end of the regular season, Jackson was playing outstanding football. He was blowing people away. If you look at the statistics like DVOA and things like that, he blows everybody, including Josh Allen, away in those numbers. I think he's going to win it in a close vote. And, it absolutely was a phenomenal season, when you look at it and you don't think, as you always have to not think with Lamar Jackson, how it ends in the playoffs.
Last year, Aaron was the only Allen voter, 49-1. And
Oh, yeah. We remind him of that all the time.
Yeah, so do I, because Aaron was on our show every week for a few years when the Bills were mediocre, and he could tend to sound like he just didn't like them. He was in New England, and, I would always defend him on this, but, it was sort of ironic, I think, to some of our listeners that Aaron, look, I told you he was objective.
Right.
And the stats favored Allen, but they wouldn't hear. I mean, as good as he was, they wouldn't hear. Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't hear. And, by the way, Aaron will never tell me how he votes because he knows that I tweet when drunk. So he makes sure I don't get any information from him. But, his statistics tell a story, and I can base off of his statistics which way he's probably going to go.
We appreciate the transparency there on that.
All right, Mike, before we let you go, just to sort of get back to Sunday, what are we talking about historically if Kansas City wins? Obviously, they'd be the first team to win 3 straight, but does that necessarily put them at the top of the heap?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't build heaps like that. I don't say, well, a 3-peat counts more than being the Lombardi Packers or the 20 years that we lived under the reign of Belichick and Brady. It is unique. It is special. And I think once a team accomplishes something that historically unique and special, that puts them automatically in the pantheon. This is a thing that, those Cowboys teams didn't do. This is a thing that, the undefeated Dolphins didn't do. These are those special accomplishments, and that puts them there in history forever. So I'm not going to – it's something we do during the week. Oh, we're going to announce this is the greatest team ever to play professional sports. I'm not going to do that. But what a special accomplishment. After all, you guys just told me Pat Riley didn't even do it. So it's like we've got a phrase for something that we've never seen, and we have a chance to see it.
Very good.
Wow. Now I now have something to add to your resume next time we have you on. Noted heat builder, Mike Tanier. That'll work for me.
Drunk tweeter, yes.
Thank you.
Drunk tweeter, sure.
Thank you, Mike. Will you be at the game?
I will not be at the game. I will be heading home to Greater Philadelphia to watch it with my friends and neighbors, and who knows what could happen if the Chiefs don't 3-peat.
Yeah, that's more fun. Bulldog and I went to a few. And we would always come back on Saturday. It would be cool to go to one, I guess, but I didn't need it. Just it was fun to be there, including in New Orleans in 2002. In my case, I mean, what a great venue for the week. I'm sure everybody's enjoying that, and we would have been. We were really looking forward to making that trip. Didn't happen. So maybe next year. Thank you, Mike.
You got it. Take care and enjoy your week, guys.
All right, you too, Mike Tanier, whose new site is Too Deep Zone, formerly with Football Outsiders. to the Super Bowl. Enjoy your night. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.